Let's be honest, we've all found ourselves raging at a referee's decision at some stage. This feel familiar?
That is an absolutely shocking decision.
They've got a case in that it was a bad decision.
It's such a poor decision.
Yeah, I think he's just made a bad decision in that instance.
But what does it take to get to the very top of football refereeing? Every referee starts with their county FA. It's a simple training course and you can take it as soon as you hit your 14th birthday. Once you've done that, you have to go through at least 11 hours of face-to-face training. You'll then graduate as a Level 7 official, which means you can take charge of county-level games. But hold your horses, there's still a long way to go to get to the Premier League. Your next step is to spend a year each at Levels 6, 5 and 4. This covers the top of the amateur game. Only at Level 3 do you start doing Northern Counties or Isthmian League level games, for example. If you've done this all quickly, you can reach Level 2 and ref your first National League match after, oh, I don't know, 6 years? After getting enough experience at that level, you can apply to be a referee in the EFL. There's an interview, people watching you do games, and then, if the EFL are happy, you'll be granted a Level 1 licence to ref in games in League 2 and above. Now, they don't just say on you go to the Premier League, you have to work your way up through the divisions. Only after years of hard work and refereeing on cold Tuesday nights in Stoke can you be considered to do matches in some of Europe's very best stadiums. Now, who was the youngest to reach the very top? It was actually Michael Oliver. He reffed his first Premier League match in 2010 at the tender age of just 25. So if you want to follow in his footsteps, crack on. It'll only take you roughly a decade, thousands of hours of work and an incredibly thick skin. In total, there are 37,000 registered referees across England, but the PGMOL has only deemed 21 good enough for the top flight. That means there's not even a 1 in 1,000 chance you'll even make it in. Obviously, referees can make mistakes, but when you think about it, having a go at them is kind of like slating a brain surgeon.
Good evening, people. This is the Transfer Insiders right here on talkSPORT. I'm Flex, and alongside me is my mate, my broadcaster, my fellow villain. Is he a fellow villain? You a fellow villain?
Oh, I'm a villain. I'm not sure you are. You might be in some way. You're not a villain in the same way as me.
Yeah, it's Dan Bardell. We're going to be with you up until 10 p.m. We're bringing you the inside scoop on all the big transfers around the Premier League and Europe as well, and the rumours over the next 3 hours with a host of expert guests. How formidable are Arsenal with Bruno Guimaraes, and who is the best Brazilian in the Premier League era? Get in touch with your thoughts on that. 03717 223344. We'll also discuss the future of Jadon Sancho. He's without a club, and surely someone in the Premier League would benefit from his services. And we'll head over to Italy as well to get the very latest from Serie A, with a number of players linked with moves to and from the Premier League. And of course, you know how it goes here. We want to hear from you. 03713 223344. This is a Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. Dan Bardell, I can't get away from you. I can't, guys, we've just been on talkSPORT 2 not long ago. Me and Dan done our social show, and we're into this. I've got to do 5 hours of you, mate. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've been contemplating that over the last 24 hours.
I mean, it's a bad thing for anyone who's already listened to talkSPORT 2, isn't it? Because they'll have to endure more of us. But to be honest,
they want to hear more of us.
I'm just surprised that, given that we're on talkSPORT 2 together every week, that we've been allowed to do a show together on here, in all fairness.
It means we're doing something right. It means I'm doing well, sort of tolerating you. That's what it means.
You're trying to sound like riding on your coattails or something.
Listen, we're a few weeks out from the Premier League resuming. The World Cup stuff is over. How you feeling? How you feeling about Villa? The business done. Of course, you've lost big players. You've lost Yuri Tillemans to the mighty Manchester United for a release clause. You couldn't stop him leaving because he wanted to go to a massive club, so that's had to happen. Morgan Rogers has had to leave, but you got huge money. How you feeling?
Good to see that you're like endearing yourself to any Villa fans that might have tuned in because I might.
You don't like me anyway.
Great start.
You turned them all against me anyway, so I thought I may as well go full sort of villain on them. I know I'm joking.
Just generally, like football coming back. I know we've had the World Cup and it wasn't that long ago, but you know me, like I like the structure of my weekends being around football, like the Premier League.
You don't know what to do when it's not there.
Yeah, I hate it. going back to Villa Park. Looking forward to doing that. I'm at the Super Cup next week in Salzburg against PSG.
Oh yeah, you're going out. Are you scared?
A little bit. A little bit, because I don't feel like Villa, and as they wouldn't be at this point, I don't feel like we're quite ready for the new season yet. But just generally, like, there's so much going on at the moment with all the teams. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting Premier League season. I think, which we're going to come on to, there's an absolute clear favourite right now. And it's a little bit of a trip into the unknown all round this Premier League season because there's just so much change, so many new managers. We said earlier, 10 of the 17 clubs have a different manager to which they started last season with. Like, there's just always so much going on.
Yeah, there is loads, and it's going to make for an intriguing Premier League season. I feel like every summer we say this. We say the league's just going to be incredible this year. Can't believe the signings, this manager, this player. Everything's new, but that's just how amazing the Premier League is. It just keeps getting better and better every year. We are going to talk more Villa business later on, of course, but now we need to get onto the main story, and that is the big saga that's been going on so far this summer, which is Bruno Guimaraes' potential move to Arsenal. And talkSPORT understand that a deal worth around £80 million is very close to being agreed, and Guimaraes expects to leave Newcastle United's Spanish training camp to undergo his medical within the next 24 hours. This is something that's rumbled on for a while, but I think it's been a one-horse race, hasn't it? There's not really been any real jeopardy. You never know what happens in transfers. People can come in and hijack, so until they're your player, there's always that little worry, but Arsenal have been clear and by far the favourites for his signature. And, you know, they've had to spend big. They had the first bid rejected and they've just gone in the next day and gone and sorted that. £80 million. What sort of price bracket is that in terms of value? Like, does value even exist anymore in the Premier League this summer? But if you were looking at one of the better deals for value, would £80 million for Bruno Guimaraes suffice?
The only way I can compare it is if you look at Tottenham, who've spent £85 million on Fernandes. If you're building a team, who would you rather have? Despite the age difference, would you rather have Bruno or would you rather have Fernandes? I think most people would probably say Bruno. What Arsenal are doing is they're taking advantage of the fact that right now they're just an incredible proposition for footballers to want to go and play for them because they've put themselves into such a healthy spot. They finally got it off their back that they hadn't won a league for so long. They've got that league title under Arteta. And what they're trying to do now is they're building from a position of strength and trying to create a dynasty where they go again and they continuously win big titles, which I think they're more than capable of doing. I think they've already got the best goalkeeper in the league. They've got the best defence in the league. I don't think anyone would argue with that. They already had a pretty strong midfield, and by adding Bruno to that, they're making sure that they do have that best midfield in the Premier League, that if someone's missing, there's going to be no drop-off because every player in that area is a top-quality player. The bit that we'll come on to later, and we'll discuss a little bit now, is the attack probably isn't in the top attacks in Europe. I think we would all say that. I think Arsenal fans even would probably agree with that. But they've got themselves into such a brilliant spot now where, let's make no bones about it, no one's hijacking them for players. It's just not going to happen.
It's them at the front of the queue. Listen, they've got a big fat target on their back. They're the champions of England. You know, they're the European finalists. Came within a couple of spot kicks of doing something very special there. And they're in that period now whereby they need to get the balance right of not being stagnant by not doing enough and thinking that just because you've won the league, it's enough, and keep everything the same for familiarity, and not risking doing too much. Big squad overhaul, trying to add too many faces, trying to change your style too much. And I think someone like Bruno Guimaraes absolutely hits the sweet spot of leveling you up at the same time as not bringing too much change to what the team stands for and what has been built around the ideologies of Mikel Arteta. He's based on commitment. He's based on intensity. He's based on organisation. He's based on leadership. And they're trying to work at the top end of that pitch on sort of based on freedom of expression, like individuality. You know, there's a little bit of that brought in with Eze, a little bit of that brought in with young Max Dowman, which he's going to be used sparingly. So this Arsenal squad with someone like him in it, as a neutral, it worries me. You know, you got to look at the chasing pack, right? And Arsenal fans can laugh and say, United, they're nowhere near us, or Liverpool ain't going to catch us. Chelsea can't. But the chasing pack is a chasing pack, right? And as a fellow member of a potential chasing pack, I look at that and say, I was already a little bit behind where I'm trying to make up that ground. Now they're going to get Bruno Guimaraes into that midfield that was already very solid, and they're looking at Vinicius Junior. That sends out the signal of real intent, right?
Yeah, and Arsenal were in a position last season where they had to run Declan Rice into the ground. At the end of the season, they had to make a decision: do we take Declan Rice out here, or do we take Zubimendi out? And they went with Zubimendi. Now they've got Bruno. He can. I'm not saying he's going to cover both because I think he'll be in their best 11, but he can do a little bit of everything as a midfielder, can't he? He can put a tackle in. He's a very incisive passer. He can take set pieces. He can score goals. Like, this is an all-round central midfield player. I think you'll probably see him as being more of an 8, but he could play as the lone 6 if Arsenal needed him to. He'll complement every midfielder that Arsenal have, and they're in a position now where whoever drops out, it's a strong midfield. There's absolutely no drop-off.
Yeah.
I said to you earlier, midfield, let's say it's Declan Rice, it's Bruno, and it's Erdegaard. You've then got Mikel Merino, Luis Skelly, Eberechi Eze, Zubimendi, not in your Arsenal midfield. Like, that is
it's not a bad
really
position to be in.
Great place to be in, isn't it?
What about Arsenal sort of propelling themselves to European glory then? Because, okay, you could argue that, they've completed the Premier League. They've done it. Now they've got work to do to make sure they retain it, but they know what that's all about. They've just fallen short at the final hurdle, a couple of spot kicks away from European glory. They've literally gone quarter-final, semi-final, final. Is this the sort of signing that propels them into, Europe's best midfield conversations?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I imagine you think
I feel like it puts them up there into the conversation of, obviously, they're in a situation whereby they can get a result against a lot of teams, and it's all about on the night. They come very, in 90 minutes, they didn't lose against PSG. It was very, very close. So, yes, on paper, depending if PSG keep their levels up, they're the benchmark, right? They're reigning, back-to-back European champions. So you're going Matinho, Neves, Ruiz, or Zaire Emery. You're looking at that and you're going, it's pretty flawless. But a different style, stylistically, styles make fights and all that. Someone of the ilk of Arsenal's midfield can absolutely give them a very, very good game. If we're looking at Real Madrid's midfield, what it could potentially look like next year, Valverde, Rodri, Tchouaméni, not bad, is it? Barcelona, you got Pedri, you got Gavi, you got Dani Olmo in there, you got the Dutch kid, I can't remember, Frankie de Jong. So there's a lot of top midfielders out there. You got Pavlovic, Kimmich at Bayern Munich as well. So it's right up there, is what I would 100% say.
Yeah, look, Arsenal can mix it with anyone.
Yes.
They showed that last season. They won the Champions League, league table phase, didn't they? They won every game from what I remember.
Which earned them that sort of Europa League run to the final.
So they've got the kind of core of the team is absolutely superb. My question would be at the moment, and obviously we'll talk about Vinny Junior later on in the show. In tight games, obviously they can keep a clean sheet, but you're not going to keep a clean sheet every game, and the good teams will score against you. It's have they got that star quality in their attack? Obviously, Saka on the right hand side is an unbelievable striker. Arsenal fans might look at it and say between them, Gyökeres and Havertz will do enough that a top 25, 30 goal a season striker would get if Havertz can stay fit and they alternate between different games. Left side, I know they've just signed a Trossard replacement, but
Zolas.
I just think they maybe lack that absolute star quality in the final third. But what they did last season was enough to win a league and get to a Champions League final.
But I think it's clear intent. This is exactly why they're right at the door should Vinicius Junior not sign a new contract. Of course, we will get into that. But I think Arsenal fans, you can clearly see what your team is trying to do in terms of upping the ante from a position of strength. We saw Liverpool do it last year, which is that's the other side of the coin, right?
Too much, wasn't it?
Which is too much change, and it goes wrong. So I think Arsenal will be very sure not to be going down that route, but they're sprinkling. In terms of Arsenal style of play, I've been thinking about this, and I want to hear from Arsenal fans on this as well. They know their team better than anyone, of course. Do they feel the need? Does Mikel Arteta feel the need, and do Arsenal fans maybe feel the need? Probably two different questions. To change stylistically, to up the ante on the front foot in terms of more expression at the top end of the pitch, more guile, more output, more flair, more individuality, or is it a case of, well, Mikel Arteta has built this Arsenal in this image and it's very, very effective. Does he sprinkle some stardust now, or does he stick to more of the principles of what Arsenal are? Hard to break down, amazing off the ball, super strong. You don't see a lot of chances conceded. Did they just stay on that?
I think you have to evolve. Look, Manchester City over the last 10 years have won the most leagues. They didn't win the league in the same way every season. I take it that like Pep wouldn't have ever won the league in the way that Arsenal did, and I don't mean that as a criticism against Arsenal.
No, it just wouldn't have happened.
But you have to evolve. Arsenal had a season, I can't remember whether it was the year before or the year before that, where they were the highest scorers in the league, I think.
Yeah.
But they didn't win the league.
Didn't win, yeah.
Winning that first one is so important to them that now they've done it, I would expect there to be a little bit more expression this season. I would expect them to be a little bit more flamboyant. Maybe the shackles come off a little bit because they've got the noose from around their neck gone now. They've won that league. They've done what they needed to do. They've got the major title. The trick is now for them, can they build on it and make it sustained success? Which I actually think they will, because I think they're really well placed when you look at where they are compared to everyone else right now. I make Arsenal the favourites.
Yeah, I think so. I look at what the team's got. It's got a mixture of everything in it. It's got a mixture of youth. It's got a mixture of experience.
They've grown together as well.
They've grown together. They've been through the ups and downs with each other, so they're more of a tight-knit group. Yeah, hopefully we're not right on this, but it does seem like Arsenal are just set up to, I'm not going to say dominate, because that's a strong word, and Pep Guardiola is the only one in recent times who've come and dominated the league like that since Sir Alex, but it's certainly looking that they could easily be winning this league once again. So this movie's got us racking our brains, because Bruno Guimaraes is right up there, I think, with one of the best Brazilians to play in the league. But there's top 5, right? But there's a lot in the Premier League era. Who's the best Brazilian for you in the Premier League era?
Do I reveal it now? I reveal it now,
Yeah.
do I? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. I've plumped for Firmino.
Oh, he's going Firmino. You're going Firmino?
Yeah. Not by like a massive distance, but I think the impact he had on his team, the fact of the longevity, the fact that Liverpool when he arrived compared to the one he left, like they won a lot of trophies, played some wonderful football under Jurgen Klopp, had a really successful period, and I actually think he was probably a bigger part of that than he gets credit for. So I'd go for him.
Okay, right. So Dan's gone with Firmino. Interesting. We want to hear from you guys on this. Well, I think this is so interesting. There's going to be a whole host of answers for this. We want to see what the right one is.
Said who you're going for?
Oh, mine's coming after the break, mate. Don't you worry about that. Mate. Got to give them a bit of suspense.
Okay.
Got to drip feed these things. You can't rush the process.
Don't say Casemiro.
Wait, I don't know. You might have taken words out of my mouth. We want to hear from you, though. Give us a call, 03717 22 3344, or text us on 81089. I'm going to be letting you guys know what it is next that I'm going to be bringing to the table with the famous Brazilians. Coming up next, though, we'll speak to Arsenal fan and Highbury squad podcaster Sophie Nicolau. Can't wait to catch up with her to discuss the move and where it leaves Arsenal's title challenge next season.
No Vin, no fee. That's on the back page of The Sun, with also Arsenal target Vinny Jr. back in training with Madrid. You feel as though, if the Madrid deal happens, he will end up staying. But around Bruno, they've had a deal rejected for £75 million. So do you think Gabby actually, depending on how these plan out, Arsenal might have a quiet window?
Yeah, but they don't need a busy window. Just won the Premier League, and they're going to strengthen. They've lost Trossard. They brought in Zolis, who's a very good winger. If they bring in Bruno Guimaraes, I think that's enough to go again and win the Premier League anyway, even without him. But it's going to make them stronger. And I think he's a fantastic player. I don't think he should be the same fee as Tonali because of the age difference. 3 years older than Tonali. So you look at him, no sell-on value for Arsenal if they sign him. So I think 75, 80 is about right.
30 million less, okay.
Just because of the age I'm looking at.
Okay. Yeah. But they're not going to have... But how important is it that Arsenal do get in a midfield, especially at the start of the season, because they won't have Declan Rice?
Yeah, and they've sold Norgard to Everton, so you're looking at that midfield and you're saying it's a bit light now. I think it's a fantastic player. We're just talking, me and Jeff, off air. That probably says Zubamendi. Maybe you're a squad player next season.
Yeah, and I think the thing is with Bruno Guimaraes that he's reportedly said that he wants to join Arsenal. So the deal will happen. So from a Newcastle perspective, get it done.
Yeah.
Don't let this become Alexander Isak Mark II.
You're listening to the Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT with me, Flex, and Dan Bardell, my favourite Villa podcaster. He's the only one I know, but he's my favourite. We're going to be with you up until 10 p.m. Well, the sun is shining, so make sure to grab a pint of So Good lager from talkSPORT. And meantime, it's available in all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports bars across the country. Find out where your nearest pub is at talksport.com/so good. 18 plus. Always drink responsibly. We've been talking about who the best Brazilian players to ever set foot in the Premier League are. You said Firmino.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to put Casemiro down, but I'm not going to do that.
No, don't be that guy.
Do you know what? I know it's Liverpool and that, but I think it's Alisson.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I've got quite a weird thing with this where, like, when I pick my all-time Villa 11, I don't pick players that are there now because I think you have to have the whole body of work before you make decisions on stuff like this. So I'm going with that for the best Brazilian.
But what's interesting about Alisson is the body of work is so incomprehensible now with what he's achieved, winning everything.
Yeah.
You know, with Firmino, really, which is interesting. And another Premier League title as well, actually, to be fair, to add to that.
One more.
So he's got 2 Premier League titles, you know, FA Cup.
Can you give best Brazilian to a goalkeeper?
Well, I know it's not really what they're famous for, but if not, you listen, you know who someone else who gets an honourable mention as well, top mention.
Go on then.
Fernandinho, mate.
Oh yeah, top player.
Like, I know people say he always gets away with the fouls, the dark arts. He was the best at that. And again, do you want to give it to somebody who's maybe not superstar attacker, but in terms of what he's done in Premier League legacy, he's right up there.
Do you reckon Rodri picked up a few bits and pieces from Fernandinho that have helped make him the complete player that he is today as well? He must have done, playing kind of with him and learning off him at the start.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because you learn, right? You're around it, and that was such an integral part of why Manchester City was so dominant as well, by doing that. So yeah, I'm going that. Let's take a call here as well. Carl, the Leeds fan, you want to have your say on the best Brazilian, mate? What are you saying on this?
There's been so many.
There has.
What impressed me with this player is that he was playing for a Leeds United side that was struggling, and yet when managers were scared stiff of him, and his name is Rafinha.
Yeah, I like what you did there.
Yeah, Leeds were struggling. Let's be honest, they were a struggling side, and yet when he got the ball, the crowd was anticipated. The rival managers were saying, "Oh no," they were saying it under their breath. When he got the ball, it was just ridiculous. And he basically, one bloke doesn't make you stay up, but
he did.
He did.
Yeah, he did. Thank you for that, Carl. Yeah, I really appreciate the call there, mate. And I think people are going to put forward their Brazilian, because if you're talking about like what Rafinha did, somebody like Philip Coutinho. And his impact while he was at Liverpool was extraordinary. Not so good at Villa, but when he came back, but wasn't to be. But some really great names there. Okay, right, let's get into all the latest transfer news with talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crookie's joining us. Crookie, how are you, mate?
I'm good. Nice to join you, boys.
Yes. Was you going to try and put Kleberson into for Man United into the best Brazilians or one of the De Silva brothers?
I was just thinking there, we're probably more synonymous with Argentinian players, aren't we?
Yeah.
United in the Premier League era.
Exactly.
Than Brazilians.
Although Veron didn't get on too well, and neither did Di Maria, to be fair. We'll leave it there. Crookie, let's talk business, though. Transfer business. Bruno Guimaraes. This is accelerating very, very quickly, and it looks like Arsenal have all but got their man.
Yeah, I mean, this has been the worst kept secret in football for several weeks, as far as I'm concerned, that Bruno Guimaraes would quit Newcastle for Arsenal. Just a case of the two clubs agreeing a fee, which is not done yet, but they are getting closer. I think that fee eventually might even be north of £80 million. But the latest information I got a couple of hours ago was that Guimaraes is on standby, waiting to leave Newcastle's training camp in Spain, waiting to undergo a medical at Arsenal. So I think the next 24 hours are going to be really key to this deal. Obviously, a lot of Newcastle fans upset to see him go. It's been a tough summer, hasn't it? They've lost Anthony Gordon. They've lost Sandro Tonali. Now they're going to lose their captain. They've lost their manager, Eddie Howe. And I'm not saying they're in relegation danger, Newcastle, but I certainly don't see them as a team that are going to compete for a European place, having lost the family silver.
Funny you say that, Crookie. I actually think it wouldn't take much for Newcastle to be like Tottenham have been over the last few years. But just staying with Arsenal, obviously they've got another Brazilian on their mind as well in Vini Jr. What's the latest with him?
I've always felt it's more likely that he stays at Real Madrid than he leaves. It's a big call for any player to leave Real Madrid for the Premier League, and obviously the tax situation in Spain is very different to the UK. So 400 grand a week at Arsenal, which is what I understand they're willing to pay him, is very different to 400 grand a week in Spain. So it's a tough deal for Arsenal to do. He's back at Real Madrid training. I think there's meetings scheduled for tomorrow between him and the hierarchy with a view to getting him to commit to a new deal. We know that Jose Mourinho wants him to stay, but I think it tells you about Arsenal's ambitions. They're even at the table when it comes to a player like Vinicius Jr. They're the Premier League champions, Champions League runners-up, and I think they feel like they can tempt that type of player now, but I still think that the most likely outcome is that he stays at Real.
That's going to be fascinating. I really don't want him to go to Arsenal, but as a neutral, I want to see him in the Premier League. I can't lie about that. This is an interesting one, Crookie. Pedro Neto to Manchester City if Savinho goes to Spurs. Very interesting one, that.
Well, I think he's a better player than Savinho. And obviously you've got the Enzo Maresca connection. Did well for him at Chelsea. And actually his form tailed off a little bit after Maresca left the club. But certainly Manchester City's interest is genuine. We know that Tottenham have been chasing Savinho for a couple of transfer windows now. Didn't quite manage to get the deal over the line. The player is keen to make that move, and Roberto De Zerbi is keen to sign him. So this could be a move that suits all parties, because I don't think Neto is a guaranteed starter at Chelsea. Savinho certainly isn't a guaranteed starter at Manchester City. So these jigsaw pieces might just be falling into place. But is he top level, Pedro Neto? I think he's got a lot of ability, but I'm not sure he's going to make the difference in a title race.
Crookie, again, staying with Manchester City, one that took me by surprise just as we were about to come on was Reinders being linked with Nottingham Forest. Like, where's that come from?
Came out of nowhere, a real bolt from the blue. But the interest, again, is genuine. Obviously, we know they've tried to sign Lucas Bergvall from Tottenham. I think Roberto De Zerbi really wants him to stay, at least for the first half of the season, and try and fight for a place in his team. So they're moving on Forest to alternative targets. He started the season brilliantly. I seem to remember his debut was absolutely breathtaking to Gianni Reinders, but didn't really kick on and make himself a regular in the Man City team. So again, this shows where Forest are at. A lot of Palace fans were unhappy with Ole Glasner that he left Crystal Palace and obviously thought he might get a top job in Europe or the Premier League. He's ended up at Forest, and there's no love lost between those two clubs. But Evangelos Marinakis, love him or hate him, is an owner who backs his managers. And the fact he's even trying to get a deal like this done, I think shows where his ambitions are.
Yeah, 100%. If that move comes off, that'll be some turn up for the books. This was like the Serie A Player of the Year before last. He's an incredible talent, but just hasn't managed to, like you say, Crookie, get going properly at Manchester City. Crookie, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Go and enjoy your eve. What you got planned? What are you doing? You up to anything?
Well, I go on holiday tomorrow, so the holiday started early. We've just ordered an Indian takeaway, myself and Mrs. Crook.
What you got? What's your go-to? Sean Dyche done this, didn't he? Dyche done his go-to Indian. What's your go-to Indian? Really quickly, go on.
What do you think my go-to Indian?
I think you're getting.
Do you know me?
I think you're getting a naan bread, a garlic naan bread. I'm going to say
keema.
Oh, keema naan. Okay, I'm going to go lamb jalfrezi.
Not bad.
Not bad.
I've gone for a chicken dish tonight because I've eaten a lot of lamb recently. I've gone
red meat.
I've gone chicken tikka balti.
Okay, that's not bad. With what, pilau rice? Coconut
Mushroom.
rice? Mushroom rice. Okay, there you go. Not far off. We went round houses, but we got there.
You got nothing right.
Exactly. All I know that he's having an Indian. Crookie, he's going to enjoy that, isn't he? talkSPORT's chief football correspondent there. Alex Crook keeping us bang up to date with everything going on around the Premier League. We've got a jam-packed show, but up next, we're going to get the Arsenal fans' inside view on their move for Bruno Guimaraes next. You are listening to the Transfer Insiders right here on talkSPORT.
Let's take a very quick call on Trent Alexander-Arnold. Oliver is a Liverpool fan. Morning, Oliver.
Morning, how you doing, lad? You all right?
Yeah.
All right,
really good,
Oliver.
mate. Yeah. Would you like to see Trent back?
All good. I'd absolutely love to see Trent back. I think Mo Salah missed him very much last season. Obviously, Salah had a pretty poor season last season, but when he come back with Real Madrid, it was very frosty, and I think the damage is being done, to be honest with you, but I would love to see him back in a Liverpool shirt, yeah.
Look, there's no doubt. Nobody can doubt his quality. On the ball, he's as good as anything, anywhere.
He was winning games from right back. Obviously the Barcelona game in 2019, that cross, and then I think he was very, very important when we won the league with Slot as well. So much quality, from right back.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, brilliant. I think a lot of Liverpool fans would share that view. They'd all love to see Trent back. Oliver, thanks very much indeed.
Maybe Jeff as well. Thanks, Oliver. You wonder though whether the player, having not really done it at Real Madrid, would want to sort of maybe at least stick around for another 6 months to see exactly where he figures and where he fares. He'll know pretty soon. As players, you get the vibe whether or not you're part of the in club or whether you're on the outside of it.
Here are some of the best sledges in Ashes history. Let's start in 1933, Douglas Jardine versus Yabba. Jardine, the notorious captain of the Bodyline series. Yabba, some bloke in the stands who became so famous he now has a statue at the SCG. When Jardine was swatting away flies on the boundary one day, Yabba yelled, "Oi, Jardine, leave our flies alone. They're the only friends you've got." Next, Warne versus Strauss in the Edgbaston Cauldron 2005. Strauss shouted, "Come on boys, he's struggling here," when Warne misjudged the delivery by Ashley Giles. Warne then told Strauss, "Say one more thing to me and I'll hit the next ball for 6. Strauss obliged and Warne walloped an enormous 6 over square leg. Night-night, Straussy. Bowler Jimmy Ormond dealt a stinger to Mark Waugh, brother of Steve, in 2001 when the Aussie all-rounder told him he was nowhere near good enough to play for his country. Ormond replied, "At least I'm the best cricketer in my family." Tough. Wicketkeeper Ian Healy issued one of the great lines after Steve Waugh told Ricky Ponting to field right under the nose of Nasser Hussain. Healy remarked, "That could be anywhere within a 3-mile radius." Poor Nass. And then there's Dennis Lilly on Geoffrey Boycott, who he beautifully described as a man who fell in love with himself at a young
Evening, people. This is the Transfer Insiders with me, Flex, and my good broadcasting villain mate, Dan Bardell. Been with him for ages today. So if we argue and we fight, we're sorry. We don't argue and fight, do we?
We've been known to. I would describe us as frenemies.
I like that. Yeah. We are frenemies.
Yeah,
but when it's not football, I do wish you.
Oh yeah, you're a nice guy in real life.
I'm not too bad. Right, this is the Transfer Insiders. We've got loads to get through on a jam-packed show. We've got to get right back to our top story tonight, and that is Bruno Guimaraes' move to Arsenal. That is edging ever closer. Let's hear what Gabby Agbonlahor had to say on this move during this morning's breakfast show.
Yeah, but they don't need a busy window. Just won the Premier League, and they're going to strengthen. They've lost Trossard. They brought in Zollis, who's a very good winger. If they bring in Bruno Guimaraes, I think that's enough to go again and win the Premier League anyway, even without him. But it's going to make them stronger. And I think he's a fantastic player. I don't think he should be the same fee as Tonali because of the age difference. I mean, 3 years older than Tonali. So you look at him, no sell-on value for Arsenal if they sign him. So I think 75, 80 is about right.
Former Villa captain there, Gabby Agbonlahor, giving us his thoughts on how great a move it is for Arsenal to get Bruno Guimaraes, and basically saying even without him, they're favourites for the league. I can't wait to speak to this next guest. Actually, I haven't spoken to her in a little while, so I'm quite excited. Let's welcome in Highbury Squad podcaster and Arsenal fan Sophie Nicolau. Sophie, how are you?
Flex, it's so good to hear your voice. I'm good, mate. How are you?
Likewise. Well, I haven't spoken to you since you've been a Premier League champion, so I wasn't sure if your voice would sound different, if there would be a bit more bass in it, if, I might have to call you by second name only or first. I wasn't sure if it was all going to change.
I'm saving the bravado for when the season starts because the World Cup took the sting out of our celebrations a bit. You know what I mean, Flex?
I loved it. I said that. I said, listen, guys, as soon as you win that Premier League, we've got bigger things to worry about, mate. We all got to join hands. We got to do it for the nation, and we couldn't quite get there. I wanted some of that Arsenal free kick stuff. I wanted Declan Rice, Saka, I wanted all of it, but we were a little bit short.
Then, didn't you?
Exactly. I didn't want too much, but we are getting back to the Premier League, Soph, and it's a massive signing on the horizon for yourselves. How much of a needle mover is this?
I think it's a huge needle mover. And yeah, I don't know what you boys think, but I've been saying on the show, for me, this is a much more important signing than Vinny Jr. Vinny Jr. is that pipe dream, the one, and as Arsenal fans, we're not conditioned to expect a signing like Vinny Jr. And if it happens, it's going to be mind-blowing, not only for Arsenal, but for the Premier League. Bruno is the player that we need. And I'm shocked that other teams in the Premier League did not go after him. I'm actually shocked that your boys didn't go in for him.
Money, mate.
Flex.
Yeah, we're not shopping in the same shops anymore, mate.
No, which is quite pleasant for us. But I think for me, there's two reasons why Bruno is maybe going to be one of the most important signings we'll see in the Premier League this summer. One is not only has he been and proven to be one of the best defenders in the league, a leader in the league, being a leader and captain at Newcastle, what that can bring to an already championship winning team. But you've also got to protect the jewel in your crown, and the jewel in our crown has been Declan Rice. And to be able to say to Declan, you're going to sit this one out, or the fact that they'll play together, taking the burden off even the small moments in games, I think this is going to be huge, not only for the team, for Mikel and his choices, for Bruno's opportunity, but also for our midfield and in particular Declan Rice.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, Sophie. I think Arsenal's quality and depth in that area now is just far superior to anyone else in the league, where you're in the position that if someone is missing, if Declan Rice is fatigued like he was last season, you couldn't really take him out, you're going to be putting someone in and there isn't going to be a drop-off at all. So I make it now that Arsenal have got the best goalkeeper, the best defence and easily the best midfield in the Premier League now. What do you think of that front line? Obviously, you said they don't need Vinny Jr., but I kind of look at the way Arsenal are set up and I would say it's the most obvious position that needs improving for me now is that left-hand side.
Yeah, I honestly, do you know what just ran through my head was a clip of me saying, Arsenal don't need Vinny Jr.
I don't think you meant it quite like that.
I didn't mean it quite like that. I feel like it's this luxury signing that's come up and one that comes all but, every, I don't know, however many years. Haaland was the last example of that type of signature moment of a signing, and you want to be in that game, absolutely. But I say this with so much respect in that we won the league last season without Vinny. And what we could do with him, who knows? But I feel like when we're forgetting what it feels like to be champions of England. And that's okay because it's been 22 years since we've been in this position. So how do we behave as champions? What do we do? Not only kind of from the players that we attract and buy, but also as fans. And I think as fans, we still have a little bit of fear. Even though we've won the title, it's kind of like next season, okay, fine, you want to defend the title and you want to be that team. You don't want to end up having a season like Liverpool did. So Vinny becomes this, we've got to have him. We absolutely need him in order to defend our title. But I would say to Arsenal fans that we've got a strong core, a strong foundation. We built the foundation first, then the house, we decorated it. And now, if you like, there's those luxury items you can get in the house, right? Whether it's the deck chairs or the hot tub outside, and Vinny.
You're building an indoor swimming pool if you get him.
Yeah, but if it's not Vinny, then who is it? I get what you guys are saying. Is Martinelli and Tolisso going to be able to provide the same? I would say we did it last season without Vinny. There's no reason why we can't do it this coming season without him too.
Yeah, no, I do understand what your sentiment is with that. But the flip side is that also it shows what kind of ballpark Arsenal are now operating in, at the fact that, okay, we don't know if this deal's going to happen, but what Arsenal are saying is if there's a sniff, if there's a chance that you don't sign that Real Madrid contract, we will give you the money. We will stump up the contract. We're ambitious. Come to Arsenal. And that is something that if an Arsenal fan 3 years ago said, I want to sign Vinicius Jr., we get laughed at. We get laughed at. It's the sort of thing you see online and you go, this is why Arsenal fans get a rough time. But now, although people will try and hate on this, and, again, we still don't know, but it just shows that they're at the door. They're in the conversation. And that shows, obviously, that's sort of indicative of where Arsenal are right now. They're the head honchos in the Premier League. Essentially, they're the second best team in Europe. They lost the final to back-to-back winners. In PSG with a couple of spot kicks. So they're very well placed as one of the second best team in Europe. So it does show that. Where else do you need to strengthen?
Just to touch on that real quick, I always felt like we were never going to get the respect that we deserved until we won the Premier League or a Champions League. And Mikel was never going to be respected in that way until he won the Premier League or the Champions League. Now he can maybe pump his chest out just a little bit. It's crazy to think that he's the only manager in the Premier League that's won the Premier League.
Yeah, longest serving manager in it now as well.
Maybe that adds a little something. So yeah, I feel like we've been in this position of pain. It's horrible. I know how Newcastle fans feel. Arsenal fans have had to sit for how many years and watch our best players go to Barcelona, Manchester City or Manchester United, seeing Robin van Persie go and win the title the next season. That is pain. So forgive Arsenal fans if they're having a little bit of joy and bravado and pumping their chests out right now, because we've been where you've been, Newcastle, Manchester United, in the last 3 or 4 years. And luckily for us, we've had good ownership who have stuck with Mikel and believed in him, his vision and his blueprint to create the success. Impatient fans like me for the first 2 years of Mikel, thank God I don't make those decisions because I couldn't have been more wrong, right? So now we're in, I feel like, the strongest place we've been since maybe the Invincibles era.
Absolutely.
And I would say more fun right now than that era.
Yeah, Arteta's done an incredible job, and I think you're right, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. You mentioned kind of maybe not needing a front player to challenge for the title or to challenge for the Champions League. Defensively, a big player in Saliba might miss the first few months of the season. Would you be surprised if Arsenal didn't delve into the transfer market for a fix there?
I think for us, there's how do you sugarcoat this? You can't. You saw Saliba in at the World Cup and what happened to France in that second half when he didn't play. This guy is just, I don't even know if he gets the credit that he deserves enough to be called maybe the best defender in the world right now. You lose one of the best defenders in the world right now. That's trouble. And you've got to make sure. So that's why I was saying, for me, Bruno to protect Declan and someone to come in to help with the Saliba situation was more important than Vinny. I'm not saying it's not important. And the left side is important and you should be able to kind of multitask. But to lose Saliba and the greatest partnership that we've kind of seen at Arsenal since yesteryear is a big problem. And I don't have an issue with someone like Konza coming in who has Premier League experience, has played in Europe. You know, one bad game for England in the World Cup doesn't make you a bad player.
You want to see Dan's face right now. You're talking about his Konza.
I've got a massive issue.
He's saying cough up. What, you having that, Dan? Sophie's having a little look.
Sorry, Dan.
How much is that going to cost, Dan?
Well, Villa wants 60 is the word, but I imagine 50 would probably do it in all
50
honesty.
would do it,
You up
right?
for that, Soph? 50 million Esri Konza come through the door?
Yeah, me and Dan could do the deal right now. Save everyone so much time and trouble.
We're
Be
essentially
amazing.
sporting directors there.
Dan's losing all
you're
his
doing
players.
a good job, Dan. Doing a good job.
He's losing all his players. He's
Can I just
I think
say I don't want him to go?
defensively, you know, guys, you know, Timber is injury prone. Calafiori is injury prone. Mosquera has been great. You know, that one mistake in the Champions League final. Sometimes Mikel puts players in jail for a little bit. Is he going to be in jail for a little bit for that mistake? It happened to Jakub Kiwior against Bayern Munich in the Champions League as well. They, you know, he kind of punishes them a little bit. Mosquera has been so good, but can you put it all on him? I don't think so. And then Benjamin White, yeah, he can partner Gabriel, but Benjamin's injury prone as well. So to me, that's a pickle that has to be sorted out pretty quickly.
Sophie, it's an absolute pleasure to speak to you. I knew you'd be this confident and this happy. I didn't expect anything different, and I'm pretty sure it's going to continue for you because Arsenal are looking like they're going to continue to reign. I am worried about it. I'm not going to lie to you.
Dan and Flex, I would love it. Have a good season, but not too good, okay?
Thank you very much, Sophie Nicolau there from the Highbury Squad podcast. She's great. She's great. If you haven't seen her content, you haven't seen her channel and podcast, make sure you guys go and check it out. Right, Saturday Fight Night returns to DAZN this Saturday. Callum Simpson and Troy Williamson meet once again in a huge domestic rematch with unfinished business to settle after their first meeting delivered plenty of drama. Join DAZN Ultimate for over 185 fight nights and a minimum 12 plus pay-per-view events every year, including the Tamil versus Hrgovic and Ryan Garcia versus Conor Benn, all included at no extra cost. Right, you listen to the Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT. Next up, we'll take some of your calls, and in the next hour, we'll ask what next for Jadon Sancho.
Boxing update on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Sign up now at dazn.com/boxing.
I speak to people here and there, good sources. The best thing I can say is that I know for a fact we're not going to rush. The window doesn't close until the beginning of September, end of August, beginning of September. We've got a lot of time to make decisions. And on top of that, we're not like other teams who desperately have to strengthen and anyone's better than their current team. If somebody comes into our team, they have to be the right personnel, the right players on the pitch, and they have to fit the vision of Arsenal Football Club. We haven't spent 7-8 years building this squad for anyone to come in and for it to be some kind of joke. So the likes of Bruno, great attitude. He can play, you know, Mikel likes him versatile. He can play as a 6, he can play as an 8. He can play as a 10 if you really want him to as well.
His creativity is very underrated, Joel.
Exactly. You know, and we all know what it gets like. When you're Arsenal Football Club, you're in every single competition, guys. Just to remind everybody, we only, you know, didn't play 2 games out of the possible. All of the games that you could have played last season, we only didn't play 2 games. What games were they? Do you know?
It would be the League Cup final. Oh no, you played that.
You're wrong. You're wrong. Don't worry, Ollie. I'll correct.
Go on. Yeah, go on.
Semi-final of the FA Cup.
And
the final of the FA Cup.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. So that means that even if you've got 2 10s, Eze and Odegaard and how great they are, sometimes you need more players.
This is the Transfer Insiders here with me, Flex, and Dan Bardell. We're going to be up with you up until 10 p.m. We've got a jam-packed show. And one of the topics of discussion that we've been talking about here is the best Brazilians to ever play in the Premier League. It's contentious. It's going to throw up a lot of answers. It's going to throw up a lot of opinions. We want to take some of your texts on this as well. We want to get into a few of what some of you guys have been saying on this. Dan, someone's got a text here saying, boys, you forgot about Oscar at Chelsea. One of the best Brazilian ever playing the Premier League.
Not over the two that
he had a good stint, left too early to go to China, was it?
Yeah.
Nah. He was neat, but he's not up there with one of the best Brazilians ever. Of course, we had Colin call up and say that, you know, his beloved Leeds Brazilian Rafinha, you know, put the team on his back and pretty much helped them. There's another Colin here said Ederson was a better player than Alisson. One more two. If you think about it, with what Alisson managed, with what Ederson did win at Manchester City, you know, winning the treble, the amount of trophies he won under Pep. To be fair, yeah. But as a goalkeeper, I think Alisson's better.
It's why with Brazilians we talk about goalkeepers. Like it's not right. But obviously they're two of the best goalkeepers that have ever played in the Premier League. But I can't be giving the best Premier League Brazilian to a goalkeeper.
All right, but this is an interesting one from Ryan. Must be an Arsenal fan. The best Brazilian in Premier League history is very obviously Gabriel. The sooner everyone admits it, the better.
By the time he comes to the end of his Arsenal career, he'll have a chance of being up there. He's certainly one of the best centre-back in the Premier League right now. I'm torn as to whether I think Gabriel or Saliba are better, but they're obviously the best partnership. But
I think Gabriel's
a monster, isn't he?
He's a proper mentality monster, in the words of Klopp.
Leader.
I wouldn't have him as the best Brazilian to ever play in the Premier League yet. And the thing is what are you gauging it by? Are you gauging it by them putting their medals down on the table and say, this is my Premier League legacy? Because if it's that, then it's people like Fernandinho and Ederson. That's it.
Yeah.
Case closed. Because they just won the most. Is it what Coutinho did in them couple of years when he came in at Liverpool, which was...
Win anything though, really?
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Is it performances? Is it how you lit it up? Is it that?
It's got to be a combination of everything, hasn't it? Like longevity, success, like individualism, especially for a Brazilian as well. I feel like because it's a Brazilian, the criteria almost needs to be a little bit different and skewed.
Here's a couple for you then. One of the texts is Dad's from Redcar says it has to be the little magician Juninho. Unbelievable talent. Going back sometimes to his Middlesbrough days.
He was unreal.
Unbelievable player.
You'll pretend you were too young to have seen it. I know that you saw it just as much as I did. I did. He had twinkle toes. He maybe like when he came to Middlesbrough, it's like the first kind of signing of that ilk to go somewhere like that. And
how did he come to the Premier League?
Lit it up. But they also got relegated.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I can put him in that.
No.
I've had a text from our talkSPORT 2 producer, Jeremy.
Yeah. What's he saying?
He's saying surely Gabriel Jesus is in the conversation with 5 Premier League titles.
The issue with that is, again, accolades, put your medals down on the table. He's putting his 5 Premier League medals down on the table. Fine. And all the cup competitions they won as well. I don't know to hand how many he won, but
Carabao
they
Cup
won
every
the
year,
Carabao Cup like 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
But I never really felt like he was the main guy. Do you know? I'm not saying he didn't contribute. City fans, don't get on to us. He absolutely did contribute, and that was one of the reasons why Arsenal wanted him at that period. There's flashes of him being that player, but I don't think he's truly been consistent enough as the main guy, even when he's gone to Arsenal as well. Obviously, injuries have blighted that stay at Arsenal so far, even though he's a Premier League winner with Arsenal now as well, which is an amazing achievement. But I wouldn't have him as the best Brazilian player to ever lace the Premier League, ever grace the Premier League. Willian?
Very, very good
Up there.
player. Very good player, especially in his Chelsea days. He was absolutely superb, wasn't he? Playing on either side, tricky, just always delivered, worked hard, consistent. But again, I think there's like he's a bracket below what you should be saying is the best Brazilian.
There's there's people like Gilberto Silva was an invincible.
Yeah,
did something incredible.
He'd be up there.
He's going to be
top
up there.
5.
Yeah, I got with that achievement. Oscar, to be fair to him, I've just seen it. He did win 2 Premier Leagues, a Europa League, and an EFL Cup at Chelsea in such a short stay. He won quite a lot, to be fair to him. I remember when Oscar left to go to China, and I was like, listen, fair play, look after your family. It's a new market. It's at the time that the league was on its way up, but I just felt, wow, like it's too early, mate. Like you got to be staying here. Quality player he was.
I think he was a bit aggrieved that he wasn't like a first 11 player for Chelsea at the time. They had such a big squad at that point and so much talent that I think that was one of the reasons he left. But you're right, he departed way too early. Would he even be in the top 10 now? I'm not sure he'd be in the top 10.
Nah, not for me. I don't think so. Even an Arsenal fan said, the Arsenal fan says, an honourable mention to Janino at Middlesbrough back in the 90s. He lit it up in the Premier League as well. So yeah, a lot of people are saying Janino actually. Duncan says best Brazilian is Janino to have played in the Premier League. Duncan's is a Rangers fan, so Gilberto Silva there's an Arsenal fan, of course, reminding us about that. There's a few shots for Gilberto Silva, and Bobby Firmino is up there. So there's a lot. There really is a lot. I want to keep your text coming in on this, guys. It is a really interesting talking point. What about the ones that you wish would have come here, Dan? Like, I'll kick this one off in terms of Ronaldinho. There was always rumours that he might come to Manchester United. And I don't even want to put myself through it of thinking what could have been if he would have been under Sir Alex Ferguson in the team that we had at the time of looking at him would have been something scary, mate. Like, scary. But I would have loved to have seen him, not just in the Premier League, but of course at my team, Man United. That's definitely one for me that I would have loved to see.
Yeah, when you're talking about one-off footballers, like,
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been anything like him again. And before him, and I don't think there'll be anything after him either. Just such a fun player to watch, Ronaldinho. But not only fun. Sometimes a player does a lot of tricks, but there's maybe not some end product. End product on Ronaldinho. If you think back to those Chelsea-Barcelona battles, that goal he scored at Stamford Bridge, where he so nonchalantly just curled it past Petr Cech, was one of the best goals I've ever seen. And it was like it was nothing to
He was always playing football in the playground. He was always playing with his mates. That's what made Ronaldinho so special. Football just was so easy.
They don't build them like that anymore.
Absolutely not. Any other players that you would have wished would have come, Brazilians?
The obvious one is R9.
Of course.
Imagine seeing him in the Premier League.
Yeah, seeing him come to Old Trafford and just put 3 on us. We're to the point where we're sort of giving him a round of applause.
Yeah, again, I was young then, but probably one of the best individual performances I've ever seen. He absolutely ripped you to shreds on his own, like absolutely incredible. Roberto Carlos, just from a fun factor.
Yeah,
seeing Roberto Carlos power free kicks in from 30 yards would have been good to watch. Rivaldo,
Cafu, Kaká.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, the list goes on. That we were spoilt in that era. So make sure you guys are getting to us on WhatsApp. You can do that on 0371 722 3344, or you can text us on 81089. I really want to get your thoughts on that. The best Brazilians to ever play in the league, and the ones that slipped through the net who never actually made it to the Premier League. Next up, we're going to discuss Jadon Sancho. Where's it all gone wrong for Jadon Sancho? He's won big things in the last few years, but he still hasn't got a club. What next for his career? Here on talkSPORT.
It's interesting, this situation with Vinicius Junior, because there were some reports of the weekend that he'd agreed personal terms with Arsenal. Rock Nation, who represent the Real Madrid star, have released a statement hitting out fake news. They said Rock Nation Sports International and our entire team cannot stand idle when unprofessional and uninformed media publish fake and damaging information for attention-seeking purposes. This is especially unacceptable when it personally targets our clients without any foundation. It's disruptive, harmful, and libelous, they say. Media outlets and journalists need to hold themselves more accountable. Now, if Vinicius Junior was that keen on a move to Arsenal, would his agency really have gone so strong in the statement?
No, I think. Look, they've been playing the game, haven't they? Let's be honest. I think Vinicius Junior wants to stay in Real Madrid. I think that's where he sees himself. He's probably using Arsenal to some extent to try and, get probably another 100 grand more on his already probably £1 million a week contract. So for me, Crookie, I think I'm expected that he's going to be staying at Real Madrid. I'll be very surprised if we see him in the Premier League and playing for Arsenal next year.
It's a real tall order, isn't it, for any club in the Premier League to tempt a player from Real Madrid. I was speaking over the weekend. I think it was Darren Goff maybe who made the point, or maybe Tony Cascarino. Dennis Bergkamp in the mid-90s when he left Inter Milan. Serie A was the powerhouse then of European football, to join Arsenal was a real surprise. Would this be comparable?
I think it would be. Yeah, I think it's probably bigger.
Shin pads are a footballer's best friend, even if players like Jack Grealish do wear such small ones you can barely even see them. But what's the story with shin pads, and are there any rules on how big they should be? It all started with cricket, actually. Cricketers had been wearing shin pads since the 1700s. They'd been introduced not for leg protection, but instead to give batters a strategic advantage. The idea was that batters could put their leg pads in front of the wicket if they missed the ball, preventing them from being bowled out. Obviously, that all changed when the LBW rule came in, but that was the theory behind them. It was thanks to this guy that shin protection made its way over to football. Meet Samuel Widdowson. He was a cricketer and a footballer. He played for Nottingham Forest back in the late 1800s, and he wanted a way to protect his legs from nasty tackles. Apparently, he'd broken his leg in a match against Sheffield United in 1874 and wanted to stop it from happening again. Naturally, his mind drifted to his other favourite sport, where players had been wearing these pads. Story goes, Widdowson cut up his cricket pads, sewed them into his socks and popped them on before taking to the footy pitch. Ta-da! Shin pads. Like all great genius inventors, everyone took the mickey at first. To be fair, he probably looked quite stupid running around with these on. But it's thought his whole Nottingham Forest team then began wearing them from 1887, and the first known use of them in a match was in 1894, in a match between Newcastle and the then Woolwich Arsenal. Eventually, FIFA clocked on that this protection was pretty important for footballers. Multiple studies have shown wearing shin pads clearly reduces the risk of players getting lower leg injuries. And so in 1990, basically 100 years after Widdowson first put them on, shin pads were made compulsory. It became a part of Law 4 of IFAB. That's the body responsible for setting the laws of the game internationally. But the law doesn't actually specify anything about measurements of shin pads. It just says pads must be made of a suitable material and be of an appropriate size to provide reasonable protection. It's really vague, and players can get away with a lot. A lot of grassroots clubs are choosing to ban micro shin pads for obvious reasons though, especially after a 15-year-old player from Penistone Church broke his leg while wearing them. Still no change from IFAB though. That's why Grealish and co can still get away with these ones, which are no bigger than a credit card and which seem to offer little to no protection whatsoever.
This is the Transfer Insiders right here on talkSPORT. I'm Flex, and I'm here with broadcaster and Villa fan Dan Bardell. We're going to be with you right up until 10 p.m. We've got a jam-packed hour. We're going to be assessing the future of Jadon Sancho. He's currently without a club, but he does have some offers, but none really from the Premier League. Why is that? And would you take him at your club? 0371722 3344 for your thoughts on that. We'll get Dan's thoughts on his Villa as well, because business so far this summer it's been okay, but they've had a lot of ins and outs as well, and I'm going to ask him how he thinks his side is shaping up, and we'll look at one of the Premier League arrivals in the league as well, Coventry, the new guys up from the Championship. They've done some business today, so how ready are they for the season ahead? And we'll be taking your calls, as always, here on the Transfer Insiders, 03717223344. We want to hear from you. This is the Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT. Dan, I know how much you love your football, right? And you said it sort of at the beginning of the show, and you was like, right, World Cup, don't really like when there's no football on. And can you just enlighten people like what you're actually like when there's no football on, and like you really don't really function well, do you?
No, I like the routine of knowing that I'm going to Villa Park every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I need that in my life. I think that's a bit of actually.
I need it.
I think it's actually like a little bit of a mental health thing. Like, I know where I'm at when I'm going to Villa Park every few weeks, and I love like just sitting at home and watching football as well, just trying to absorb as much of it as I can. I love obviously coming to places and talking about it as well. Like, I prefer talking about it's not very good run by the Transfer Insider show, but I prefer like talking about the stuff that's actually happening on the pitch rather than the stuff that's going on off it.
What about away from football though? Is there any other hobbies that you do? Sports or film or just get the seats? I mean, this is what I'm saying. It's like, nah. I like people to hear these things, because you're a dedicated sportsman. Like, I just like to know, and I always do like to ask people what they do away from football, because people ask that a lot. Because when you work in football and obviously you're a fan as well, it literally just consumes, like, it's football, football, football. And sometimes it can get, like, a little bit too much. And I'm a guy, like, I just sit and watch Only Fools and Horses. That's my thing.
Really?
All the time. I'm like a big Only Fools and Horses super fan. Like, I've got, like, memorabilia from the show. Like, I've got a beer mat signed by David Jason from the Nag's Head in my house. Like, I've got Only Fools and Horses mugs. I've got, like, the Del Boy dressing gown. I'm a big Only Fools and Horses fan. That's what I do.
See, I don't think I've really got. It's very sad. Obviously, I've got like
Just watch, like, Premier League years.
I mean, this is your life. I'm expecting like my dad to walk in at the minute.
Hey, you got to have some fun. We're going to get to the transfers in a second, but, you know.
I think because football takes up so much time, like watching it, obviously doing Villa stuff every single day as well. Like, don't really have time for any other hobbies. My hobbies are basically my family. After that, I've spent time obviously with my wife.
Family.
I've just had a baby. Like, I absolutely love her to bits. So I'm spending as much time with her as I possibly can. I got 2 stepsons who drag me in the garden to play football every 5 minutes.
So you can't get away from
really.
football,
It does feel like everything is football.
No, I hear you on that. It is always nice though to hear, how people sort of compartmentalise as well. We do have a bit of breaking news for you though at the minute, and that is FIFA staff are due to attend a crisis meeting with Gianni Infantino. There's more on that on talkSPORT and talkSPORT.com. Of course, so much going on within the FIFA organisation now with the collapse of Infantino's absurd sort of suggestion of what he was planning to do with our beautiful game. Right, we are going to talk Jadon Sancho now because he's been training with Flixton FC of the North West Counties League as he looks to keep himself fit ahead of the new season. Sancho has won trophies at all 4 of his clubs, including back-to-back European honours over the last couple of seasons. In fact, he's lifted the Europa League as recently as May. So he's been winning, and talkSPORT understands he's got various offers, including from Turkey, Italy and Saudi Arabia, and is assessing his options at the minute. So the question is, what next for him, and could we see him back in the Premier League? It's a really odd one, Dan. We've got dogs in this race, right? Horses in this race, should I say? And we, as a United fan, I just hate what's happened. I hate what's happened for him. He was one of the most sought after wingers in Europe. We worked at it for a long time. We worked at it for a long time, 2 years. I remember Dortmund being really silly on the price, wanting over 100 million for him in the first sort of summer he was in for him, and we were like, nope, too much, not having it. He stayed an extra season, had a phenomenal season, like 20 goals, 20 assists. Unbelievable player. Then we bought him for the best part of 75, 76, 77 million, along those lines. And in that summer, that was when, Sancho, Varane and Ronaldo came, and it was like, stupid me, you know what I'm like. We're going to win the league. That's it, we're untouchable. But with him, he just never really truly got going. Fell out with Eric Ten Hag very publicly, refused to kind of say sorry, which is what other reports are saying. We never really got the player side of things, so I guess we can't really comment too much on that. But I always felt like he had gears to go up, and I wanted him to just have that sort of that drive in him to go at people, to play with intensity, and it just didn't quite click for him. But he goes on to Chelsea, wins the Conference League, goes on to yourselves, wins the Europa League. How do you see it, and how do you think he's ended up here? He's a 3-time Bundesliga Player of the Month. He's won in the Team of the Year twice in the Bundesliga, Champions League finalist in 2024. Remember when he went back on loan to Borussia Dortmund, ended up going to the final, had an amazing game against PSG in one of those in the lead up to that, I think in the semi-final. How did you view him at Villa? Why do you think he's in this position?
Yeah, I'll have watched every single game that he played last season, and I will say some of the perceptions around him, like, it was never for a want of trying. Like, I think he always worked hard as a bare minimum. I think he stepped onto the football pitch and worked hard defensively, did his work that you're supposed to do as a wide player. But you've not got him in the building for that, have you? You've got him in the building because you're hoping he's going to take players on. He's going to beat players. He's going to thread incisive passes through. And he looked to me like a player that is just simply lacking confidence. But it's gone like so far down now that I don't know whether he can recover from that and discover it to get himself back to the highest level and back to the level he was operating at previously. Like, there is a footballer in there. Like, every now and again he'd do something, and I think, right, can you?
There's ability there, of course.
Can you build on that? And he just never quite did. And I would say that if he's worked under a manager like Unai Emery in the Premier League, who has visibly improved nearly every player that's worked at Villa with him, and it was a great dressing room, and I think few players put their arm around him and tried to get confidence back into him, but it never quite happened. And
didn't ignite, did it?
If he made a mistake, he's one of them players that you think, he's going to hide for a little bit now. He's going to dwell on it. Like he's not going to want the ball. I remember the Sunderland game, Villa were 3-1 up at Villa Park. He came on, made a mistake. Suddenly, the next thing you know, it's 3-3, and you could just see that it visibly affected him. He goes into his shell. And I think his days as a Premier League footballer are probably done. You've mentioned some of the places that are interested.
Yeah,
in him.
Turkey, Italy, Saudi.
From a financial perspective, obviously Turkey and Saudi are going to provide you with riches, but I'd actually look at Serie A and think where things are a little bit slower, the football's a little bit more methodical. I actually think for a player that's not blessed with loads of pace, but he's a clever player, I think that would actually suit him.
Yeah, maybe like a Juve move or you know, a Roma or a Napoli potentially. Ruben Amorim's at AC Milan, so probably
not going there, is it?
Probably not. I think with Jadon, I think it's a mentality thing as well. The question he has to ask himself is, how much does he want to resurrect his career and get it back on track? You know, he's been at the top where, you know, there were conversations over, you know, him and Saka in England team, or, you know, him and Phil Foden, or whoever. It wasn't so long ago. Him and Mason Mount, people like that. And now it looks like he'll probably never play for England again, unless something special really happens.
Long road back.
It's a long road back, and you can never say never, but it's a long road back. And I just think it's he's got to do some soul searching and think, right, what have I got to do now to dig deep and get my career back on track? And only Jadon Sancho can answer them things, because he's clearly a talented boy. Obviously he is. You don't get to where he's got to if you're not talented. But as we've seen at the very, very top level, in Premier League football, not only that, but just in world football, European football as a pro, talent alone is not enough, and he's got to really knuckle down. And I think the decisions that he's made over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, listen, Manchester United gave him a massive contract, and people can say, I remember Rory sort of saying, look, Chelsea offered him a contract to stay, and he turned it down. It was on less money. So that gives us a snapshot into maybe where some of the thinking was. Listen, football's a short career. You don't know when you're next going to get the best part of 250 grand a week, like what Man United gave to his agent. Probably said, listen, we're going to take a couple loans for a couple years. We're seeing out that contract. And again, you move as a free agent. You're financially stable from that point of view. But where he goes next is going to depend on things like that, isn't it, Dan? Especially maybe the Premier League as well, if that's still an option, of will he drop those wage demands to sort of, I don't want to say humble himself, because he's made it to the very, very top. But in order to reignite and be as appealing as he can financially to a plethora of clubs to give himself the most options, he will probably have to do that if he wants to stay in the Premier League and be attractive to, I don't know, off the top of my head, an Everton, I don't know, Brentford, or I don't know, because his stock has fallen so far that we can't now be like, no, I can't see Sancho playing for Brentford. He wants to play in the Champions League. He hasn't been doing it.
It's whether you're prepared to take the pay cut to stay in the Premier League, because
Exactly.
nobody's paying him 6 figures a week.
No, of course not. No.
But will pride allow you when you've been earning a certain amount of money? I'm not a dig at Sancho.
No.
I'd be a dig at anyone. Like, if I'm earning a certain amount of money,
Yeah.
I probably don't want to be taken down to level or two below that. Absolutely nobody wants that in life and in work. But he's going to struggle to get that here. So then it's, do you go and take the big money but potentially go and play somewhere where you're not going to be happy? A lot of English players have gone to Turkey in the past, or players that have played in the Premier League have gone to Turkey. You find yourself out there after a year because you can't settle. You don't enjoy the lifestyle. Saudi Arabia, again, you're going to get riches, but is the standard of football when you've played for England, when you play for big clubs like Manchester United, Chelsea and Villa, like, is that going to be enough for you? I kind of like what he's doing now. He's stripped it right back, hasn't he? And he's gone to
go back to
a non-league club to do his own work, try and get himself. Maybe that's a reset of mindset from him. I don't know, because I don't know him, but I feel that's almost what he does need to do.
Absolutely.
He does need to strip it back and think, this is why I became a footballer. This is why I love football. Because I guarantee it wasn't for riches and for money. It would have been because he was very talented and because he wanted to be a footballer, to play football. So he's got to do a little bit of soul searching, Jadon Sancho, because it's a long way back to where he was. But if he's going to get back there, it's going to have to be step by step, and he's got to be prepared to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he's 26 years of age.
Yeah,
like,
we're not talking about someone who's at the end of their career.
No, and at the same time, we're not talking about a kid. We're talking about somebody going into the prime years of his career where he should be absolutely sought after. Jadon Sancho is available on a free, and there isn't loads of Premier League clubs sort of, throwing money at us. I want to know what you guys have to think about this. Listening, would you take Sancho at your football club? 03717 223344. Dan, you've just had him at yours. If they signed him on a permanent, would you have been happy with that instead of Garnacho?
No.
You wouldn't. You'd rather Garnacho?
Garnacho's a no to me.
When you didn't know that you was going to...
I don't know what he's going to
But
be.
off the back of what you saw then for that loan, if you would have spent, I don't know, well, he's a free, so whatever you would have agreed with him. Say you give him, I don't know, 100 grand a week, 3-year deal. Would you have been underwhelmed by that from what you saw?
Yeah, ultimately Villa can't afford mistakes in the transfer market, and I understand why they signed him, because they got to the end of the window and they needed bodies in, and he was available. So Villa paid him £180,000 a week, I think it was, of his Manchester United salary. And if I look at that and think, was he worth that output? Unfortunately, as I say, it wasn't for the one of trying, but he wasn't.
It just didn't work out. And for me, I just think it's sad. I don't like when you see stories like this, because I just think back to, we were the ones who brought him back to this country after he left Manchester City all those years ago and made his name at Dortmund.
Even they don't want him anymore, do they?
I know, because they wanted him a couple of times. Yeah, I was thinking maybe just go back there. They love you there. They kind of worship you. Not worship, but he's got such great memories. He hasn't had a bad time at Dortmund over 2 spells, right? Maybe just go back there. You know the place very well. But I just want to see him challenge himself, because he's talented. And there's been times I've been there as a United fan where I forget that he's talented because of all the other stuff that's gone on. Like, I didn't agree with how he went so public with Erik ten Hag and sort of refused to apologise. I backed Erik ten Hag on that, regardless of some of the things we're not privy to as fans, which I'm also aware of. I just think when you go down, when you try to take on the manager in that way in public, you can't expect to sort of not apologise or put that right. And it was just a shame he wasn't able to come back into the squad and find something. And essentially, Man United have wasted 5 years on him. That's it. It is an investment that went horribly wrong. £73 million. And guess what? The biggest winner out of it is Jadon Sancho. Even though his career's not where, hear me out, in terms of his career's not where it should be for that. So you can say he's a loser. But Manchester United, mate, he won things at all the other clubs. Okay, he got an EFL Cup in his first season. With Erik ten Hag in his first season. But for what we paid for him, and we had to watch him go out on loan 3 times and pay him that duration of that contract. Arguably, he's Manchester United's worst ever signing. Pound for pound.
Anthony?
We sold him. Didn't have it,
True.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like pound for pound. And I that's a harsh title to have. Like Di Maria, it didn't work. Sold him a couple years later. Sancho stayed for the duration of the contract, played for 3 other clubs, and got his whole contract. Brilliant for him, but for Man United with the level of investment, Rasmus Højlund is a big one. We've had a lot of bad ones, but I would say Jadon Sancho goes down as pound for pound one of the worst ever signings in the Premier League.
Can't argue with what you've said
for Manchester United. So it's a harsh one to take. Right, shortly we're going to get more on the breaking news that FIFA staff will be attending a crisis meeting with Gianni Infantino as this saga rumbles on as well. Next up, we're going to head to Turkey. And could some big names from the Premier League be on their way? This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT.
Having won the league last season, you mentioned this to me in the break. Do you think it's more emphasis on the Champions League this time?
Possibly, without wanting to obviously downplay anything else around it. Possibly there will within the camp that little bit of extra determination to try and get over the line in the Champions League. They'll be right in there again. Champions League is such fine margins. Those matches when you get to the quarters and the semis of those games, you can be in pole position with 10 minutes to go and go out. It's very, very difficult to absolutely guarantee anything at that level and that stage of that competition. They're the team to beat in the Premier League. I think the squad, I just looked at the squad again, Jeff. They've got so many good players. I mentioned to you about William Saliba obviously being out for a bit, not sure of back injury, and backs can be a bit weird. You can feel like it's all clearing up, then all of a sudden something doesn't feel right again. They can frustrate you. But they've got Incapie, they've got Calafiori, they've got others that can all play alongside Gabriel and cope admirably in that position. Still got, as far as I mean, unless I've missed something, but they've still got players to cover pretty much every position, every eventuality. So they're in great shape, great health. And if they get another big one through the door, another real top draw player, and I'm not sure who that is and in what position that would necessarily be, but I think if they sent a message in that respect, oh wow, they're going to take some stopping.
Well, obviously it looks like Bruno Guimaraes is going to be through the door.
He's the one. I mean, do you like him?
No, I love him.
Legendary stuff, Dan.
I know only for the noises.
Oh yeah,
I'm
just reminding you that it's legendary stuff.
I'm just not as big a fan of it as you.
I watch it every night, mate.
Literally every.
Almost every night. I'm a super fan.
I've learned something new about it today. Yeah. I didn't know. Wouldn't have been the thing I'd have predicted that you'd do.
Nah, I love it, man. I just think it's the best thing ever made.
It's a class shirt.
It is. There will never be another one like it. This is the Transfer Insiders. This is not UK Gold, I promise. A little bit of Only Fools and Horses to bring us out of the break. This is the Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT with me, Flex, and broadcaster and Villa fan Dan Bardell. Now, another big Only Fools and Horses fan is Big Alan Brazil. He's making his long-awaited return to talkSPORT breakfast tomorrow. He'll be alongside his old mate Gabby Ogbonlahor from 6 a.m. Set your alarms because you don't want to miss the big man. That's Big Al back on breakfast tomorrow at 6 a.m. How great is that, by the way?
Looks well as well.
Oh, he's really looking great. Can't wait to hear his voice back on the waves again. And it was so funny seeing Gabby just lost without him. That little package they done, a little social media post, and it was Gabby ringing him saying, "Oh, when you coming back, mate? When you coming back?" He was like, "Mate, ring Ali. I haven't missed you that much." But those two are brilliant. So I can't wait to see Big Al back on breakfast tomorrow at 6 a.m. Guys, make sure you guys tune in and listen to that. Shortly in this hour, we're going to discuss whether Spurs are still a member of the Big Six, and if so, why? If so, how? How'd you get to finish as low as that twice in a row and still be in the Big Six? But for now, let's head to Turkey and discuss some of the big stories swirling around that part of the world. And on this morning's breakfast show, Jeff Stelling was asked if he thinks Marcus Rashford should make the move to Turkey.
Swipe left. From Marcus Rashford's point of view, he won't want to go to Turkey. Goodness me, he's been in Barcelona. I see. Forgive me, Turkish football fans. For someone like Rashford, it would be a last resort, in my view, and I just don't see it happening.
Stelling there, Jeff Stelling there on the breakfast show, saying it would be a last resort. You just can't see it happening. We can speak more to Turkish football expert Ahmet Bob Turgit. How are you doing, Ahmet? Thank you for taking the evening out to talk to us, mate.
Thanks very much for invite, Flex and Dan. How you guys doing?
Really good.
Yeah, we're really good. We're intrigued to see what's going on over there in Turkey at the minute. Anthony Taylor, he's hung up his whistle, I want to say. That's what it is. He's hung up his...
He's retired, but he's going to be the captain of the Turkish referees, I guess.
Yeah,
that's the news that's going on in Turkey. Turkish Football Federation announced today that he will be in charge with Turkish referees in the Turkish Super League, pretty much every referee in Turkey.
How do you view that move? Do you think someone with his experience, being a referee for over 20 years, so much experience in the game, is that what's needed?
And then you probably heard a lot of things about Turkish referees not being good. That's why they were not in the World Cup this year. So a lot of problems with Turkish referee. Now I think his job will be easy when the Turkish Super League starts in about 10 days. They're going to use that smart ball, the chip ball. It will make things much easier for Turkish referees. But I think he's there to train the Turkish referees for better and then teach them English too, probably.
Yeah, so it's an interesting move. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that, to be fair. I've got nothing to really compare it to. Can I just ask you about Mohamed Salah? Because he's still being linked with the Turkish Super League. If he was to come in, would it be the biggest signing that's ever been made?
That is the big news right now in Turkey. Trabzonspor pretty much did the deal. He's the president of Trabzonspor. We'll bring him from Greece to Istanbul tomorrow morning. They will sign the contract. They'll go through the medicals. And on Thursday in Trabzon, Turkey, we'll have a big celebration in front of the huge fans in Trabzon. The deal is pretty much done. We're talking about 2-year deal, 40 million. His manager will get 6 million out of that 40 million. And it'll be a lot of sponsorship going. I think this is the most talk about transfer so far in Turkey. As you know, Beşiktaş was going to get him. The deal went sour. Now Trabzonspor in the scene. I think with Salah playing with Andre Onana. As you know, Onana plays for Trabzonspor. And there's a lot of talks about Rashford coming to Fenerbahce. So Turkish teams are paying big bucks for these big names. We'll see what happens. And in the meantime, the Osman talk is in English media, about British media, about going to England. That is hot also, but I don't know if it's real. But I think Galatasaray wants 65 million and Tottenham willing to pay 60 million. There's a 5 million gap there. I don't know if Galatasaray wants to sell that Osman because Icardi is already gone. If they sell him, they won't have a striker.
That is incredible. I mean, just to take it back to the Mo Salah situation you were saying there. I mean, how impactful is that for Turkish football to get somebody, or if this does happen, to get somebody of the quality and stature and superstar nature of Mo Salah? How big would that be for Turkish football?
That would be a huge, Dan, because if you look at the Trabzonspor forwards, they transferred the player that scored a most beautiful goal in the World Cup, Cabral, and also Onachu from Nigeria plays there. And with Salah coming to Trabzonspor, along with in goal, you have Onana. I think probably Trabzonspor will be the biggest contender for the championship this season in the Turkish Super League.
What about Marcus Rashford? Is he a player that you envisage coming over to Turkey?
Well, that is the hot thing is going on, but nothing serious right now. Fenerbahce made an offer to him, but it is not real. It's not cooking right now. But Fenerbahce got most talked controversial player Mason Greenwood to their roster for 39 million euros. So he has played a couple matches. He did not start, but I think Mason Greenwood will see along with Vedat Murici, and they also had transferred Manchester City player Nathan Ake. So Fenerbahce is looking good too. Along right now, Galatasaray, the team that won the championship, has not made any transfers. So that is the biggest talk right now in Turkish Super League, because Galatasaray fans are really worried about this season, even though they won the championship fourth in a row in the Turkish Super League.
Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. Thank you so much, Ahmet, for bringing us the
No
very
problem,
latest
sir.
of what's going on.
Thank
Enjoy your
you,
evening.
Dan and Flex.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Absolutely. Amazing insight there. I mean, Turkish football really on the rise. Of course, we'll have to wait and see if Mo Salah does go to Trabzonspor, which would be some turn up for the books. I don't think a lot of people would have had that down as being one of the big moves of the summer.
Sounds more advanced than I thought it was.
Yeah, it does.
Gotta be
So,
honest.
yeah, we're going to be right across that, bringing you the very latest updates and developments around Mo Salah, and of course all transfers here on the Transfer Insiders. Now, if you like your cricket though, don't forget our new podcast, How's That for a Pod? Sam Allar, Georgie Heath and Faraz Noor speak to Birmingham Phoenix captain Donovan Ferreira about the 100 and his previous life as a salesman, and go back and listen to their 100 special, including a lively conversation with Owen Morgan. Find all episodes on the following on feed. Right, coming up, we'll discuss Coventry. They've made a big signing today. And are they ready for Premier League survival as well? You're listening to Transfer Insiders right here on talkSPORT.
Let's talk about Jack Grealish. Obviously, you bumped into him on holiday. Everton opted against a 50 million buyout option, but I saw in the Liverpool Echo, 83% of Everton fans want the club to sign Jack Grealish. Do you think he'll end up there?
I think there's a good chance he will, but I didn't understand the £50 million that Man City thought they were going to get. A year left on his contract. Like, you're never going to get that sort of money for Manchester City if they can get a fee at all. Because it's a club like Everton or wherever Jack signs for might be like the wages. Maybe we'll cover the wages for a year and then that's it. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. But seeing him over in Mallorca, he was fit. He was training at Real Mallorca's training ground because they were away in Marbella pre-season. He's hungry. He's looking after himself. He's doing all the right things. And, you know, some players at 30, Jeff, he's won it all.
Yeah.
Doesn't need any more money. But he wants to play. He's addicted to football. He loves football. He would have been so jealous watching the players at the World Cup. He still wants to play at the highest level. And he showed that by the pre-season that he's had. So any reports as well that were fake reports you were hearing about being left out of Manchester City squad, no, I don't think he's clear to train for another 10 days.
When you think about famous F1 circuits, the likes of Silverstone, Monza, Monaco come to mind. One of these is not like the others though. Monaco is just one of a number of street circuits on the calendar, and that number's only set to rise. There's a clear difference between a traditional circuit and a street circuit. What is a
Evening, people. This is the Transfer Insiders right here on talkSPORT. I'm with Dan Bardell. I nearly forgot who I was with then.
You've been with me all day.
That's what I mean. It's Dan Bardell overkill. I've been with me too long. I almost looked to my left and thought, who's that again? I'm with Dan Bardell, me Flex. We're going to be with you up until 10 p.m. before we hand over to the guys at Sports Bar. I feel like we've had so much going on in this show already. So much to talk about. Mo Salah potentially going to Turkey. We've been talking about Jadon Sancho. We've been getting some more text on that as well. I sort of claim that Jadon Sancho arguably is up there as the worst Manchester United signing in the Premier League era. And Mohamed has got in contact and says, hello, Pogba is the worst signing as we let him go for nothing and then brought him back and then he went for nothing again. But I hear what you're saying with the financials, but let's not do that. Let's be sensible here. Paul Pogba done way more in a Manchester United shirt than Jadon Sancho. He did.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Paul Pogba actually, I believe, was scapegoated at times. Not saying he got the best out of himself, but there was a lot going on at the club and he was so super talented and we actually got to see it in some big moments where you go, what a footballer. Sancho never gave us those moments in the Manchester United shirt. Not having that.
No, Sancho over Pogba for me as well.
Yeah, exactly. Hayden is texting. He says, Sancho, I reckon, should go back to Dortmund as they love him there and he might get back to his best. All the best, boys, from Hayden. Yeah, exactly, Hayden. We were talking about that.
I'm really quiet, that is. At the start of the window, that was like just
a thing.
It was expected, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was reported in a lot of reputable places, but it just seems to have gone completely quiet.
Yeah, it's just not there right now for him. Hopefully he can reignite his career. Right, let's discuss Coventry now, though, because they are set for their first Premier League campaign for 25 years as they face Arsenal live on talkSPORT on Friday, the 21st of August. Some first game, that is. Today, they complete the signing of goalkeeper Carl Rushworth from Brighton for a fee believed to be around £22 million. Rushworth spent last season on loan at the CBS Arena and earned rave reviews for his performances. So what else do they need ahead of the season? We're about to speak to talkSPORT's Anil Kondolo, who recently spoke to Matt Grimes and asked the Coventry captain how much of an influence Frank Lampard had on his time at the club.
The way he sold the project was a big incentive to come. Obviously, you want to learn from the best coaches in the world. I believe he is that, and obviously he was one of the best players in the world as well. So all the knowledge that he has, you try and soak in on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, he's just a pleasure to work with, and you can see he's got the absolute maximum out of this group. And we're ready to follow him now into the Premier League.
There'll be a lot of Coventry City fans listening to this. If you had just one message for them going into what could be the most incredible season of a lot of their lives, what would you say to them?
Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. I think we've been through so much, or you guys have been through so much for so many years. We're back where we belong. Go and enjoy it.
Coventry captain there, Matt Grimes, speaking with Anil Kondolo, who we're going to welcome into the show right now to get more on this. Let's go to Anil. Anil, I need to talk to you because I just need to get one thing clear before we get into this, right? I know you're a Manchester United fan. Are you sort of going to leave us behind now, Cover back in the Prem? Are you putting your Man United, fandom to the side, or are we doing dual purposes? What's going on?
Well, very good evening to you, Flex. Dan, good evening, my friend. Whatever pays the bills is the answer to that one, Flex.
Whoever stays up.
Look, yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. Whoever gets the money up, then that's where we'll follow, mate. But yeah, I think it will be an exciting season. But I'm a Manchester United fan. I want them to win every single game possible. And also with Cov, just, of course, when they play Manchester United. You know where my allegiance are, Flex.
Absolutely.
Don't
do that to me.
I'm winding you up. Right, so Rushworth has completed his move to Coventry. Obviously, he's done fantastically well there already. How important was it to get that one over the line? Massive signing.
Yeah, Flex, I can't understate how important this was. It was arguably Coventry's biggest bit of business that they needed to get over the line. 17 clean sheets in the Championship. Of course, that achieved him the Championship Golden Glove last season. He got Player of the Season, and Young Player of the Season. I think when you look at just the last season he had at Coventry City, you can really realise why Coventry fans broke that rule of never falling in love with a lone player. Well, they certainly did fall in love with this one because of how important he was. And I know what I'm going to say might sound strong and especially perhaps premeditated, given the fact that he hasn't really had any consistent run at a top club until now, of course, with Coventry being back in the Premier League. I think if you take James Trafford out of it, this guy has nailed nailed on to be England's number one. The
Really?
saves he makes, the calmness he brings to his defenders, the distribution, he's got it all. And of course, Brighton have put in a buyback clause within this contract, or signing, should I say. So they clearly see that there's a massive future, but they just can't provide the platform for him. But Coventry City will provide that platform. I think it's going to be an incredible, hopefully, season for him personally. And you can see by you've seen all these boys, the videos of the team welcoming back to the setup in Coventry, how happy they were, how pleased they were. And look, some people might, almost turn their nose up a little bit at the price, but when you look at how valued he is, not just within of course, the playing staff, but also with the fans, it was an absolute no-brainer. So, yeah, this is a massive, massive moment for Coventry City to secure what I think, anyway, is a future international.
Obviously, a massive signing. You've just waxed lyrical about him, like it's pretty key. It's pretty clear that he's a key and integral player for Coventry. How ready are they elsewhere for the Premier League, would you say, with 3 weeks to go until the big kick-off?
Yeah, look, Dan, you boys have been football fans longer than I have, but we know what this time of year brings. You want 5 signings through the door yesterday, but unfortunately, in the way that the market has gone over the last few years, it's just not the way that clubs operate. But in terms of the business that Coventry have done already, they've brought in defender Swiss international Amenda, who has joined from Frankfurt on a 4-year deal. That was 17 million. Of course, Frank Onyeka, who joined Coventry on loan in the second half of last season, he's obviously made his move a permanent one from Brentford. He was so imperative to their push to number one, never mind promotion. So you add in Carl Rushworth. It's a great start for Coventry City, but as you've already said, it's going to be very difficult. You look at the business and the sheer amount of players Sunderland brought in last season to secure not just Premier League safety, but a very memorable one at that. It takes a lot of time. It takes the right players to bring in. And I think one thing that Coventry fans can get excited about, I do believe, is going to be the loan market. With Frank Lampard's connections previously with Chelsea, we've already seen it in his career in the Championship at previous clubs when he's brought Mason Mount in and a couple of others to show that he can bring in some top players who just need some minutes under their belt. And one name to watch, I would suggest, my understanding, is Gustavo Hamer. Of course, he left Coventry to join Sheffield United after Coventry were knocked out of the playoff final a couple of years ago to Luton. There are talks, as I say, under my understanding, with the two clubs over a potential return for Hamer, but still work to do. So, look, we've still got a bit of time, but I think it's so important that Coventry bring in players with some Premier League experience, and even there was a certain report or two going around today about a player that you've, of course, spoken about already, which is Mykhailo Mudryk. He is drawing some interest from Coventry City. Again, them links with Lampard and the Blues.
Do you think that will work? Do you think that can work? Of course.
Say again, sorry?
Mykhailo Mudryk, do you think that could be something that could go hand in hand? Obviously Lampard spent time with him at a short time at Chelsea. Obviously he needs to reignite his career. Is that something you would support?
Yeah, absolutely. Flex, you'll have seen just in Marco Carrick's time alone, when the right person comes in and puts their arm around you or gives you that tough love like Sir Alex used to do back in the day, whatever works for players. And I think it's a different era now. You do have to, support them, especially emotionally, allow them to get through some difficult times. And social media is a very difficult thing to navigate through these players. So I think this would be a great move for him. He'd get week in, week out football at the top level. And I think just because a player can't make an impact at one of the top 6 clubs, there's no reason to say why he can't make a huge impact lower down in the Premier League. With Dan's team, Aston Villa, we've seen several loan deals where players were almost written off and they've rejuvenated their careers. So I think this would be a fantastic move, and it's the type of statement signing that a team like Coventry will need in order to just have a bit more self-confidence that they can, of course, compete at the highest level. So that would be, of course, one of the dream signings from a Coventry perspective. But I think the Premier League experience is really, really important to add to an already successful side.
Just onto the manager, who obviously does have that Premier League experience, had spells at a few Premier League teams with mixed results. Obviously, Coventry rolled the dice when they got Frank Lampard in initially. Everyone was a bit surprised because Mark Robbins was so ingrained with the club. How important is he? And I presume he's gonna get time. Like, there's going to be no knee-jerk decisions if things don't start great.
Oh, absolutely not, Dan. I don't think, and look, we've seen it so many times. I think when the pressure really starts to mount on a manager, it's because the fan base are starting to turn on the person in the dugout. But the Coventry fans can't love Frank Lampard enough. And exactly what you said there, I actually interviewed Frank Lampard back in November, and I said the exact same thing to him, Dan, about, you know, how loved Mark Robbins was before. And there was a real hesitation, not just from Lampard's perspective personally, but just in general. Can they really, really get the Coventry fans on side and get them where they felt like they belonged, of course, in the Premier League after 25 years? And he has just rejuvenated that side. It's a real sleeping giant of a club, Dan. You'll know more than most, being from the West Midlands. You know, it's a massive club with a lot of history, and they needed, I think, a bit of that stardom in the dugout to really make them believe that they can dine at the top table. So I think Lampard's been imperative. You know, we heard from Matt Grimes right at the top of this section, and him talking about him being one of the best managers in the world. You know, he works with him day in, day out. He knows what he's done for his career personally. But I think from Lampard's perspective, it's a really big season. It's a mixed bag, of course, from his Premier League career. He went in at Chelsea where they had that transfer ban, but he managed to get them into the Champions League positions, and then a difficult time at Everton. We only have to listen to former Premier League manager Sean Dyche on talkSPORT over the last few weeks to describe how difficult it was at Everton at that time. So I think this is the perfect time. He'll get time, as you've already alluded to there, and I just hope that, of course, when the moments do get tough, that they can stick together and try and get themselves out of it. But the Premier League, it doesn't get much more difficult than that.
No, it doesn't, and they've only got to start against the champions away at the Emirates as well. So yeah, it doesn't. It's straight in at the deep end. Anil, always great to catch up, man. Always great to catch up. Anil Kandola, their talkSPORT reporter, giving us the latest with Coventry City and their return to the Premier League. Don't forget, you can keep across all the latest transfer news over on talkSPORT daily. It's out every morning, covering the biggest football story of the day. Right, this is the Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT. Up next, we're going to be discussing the developments in the latest FIFA saga, because it's absolutely insane what's going on.
My issue is, and you say he's in a minority of one at the moment, I'm not sure he is, because, you know, we haven't seen the African Federation, for example, come out against him as yet. And you know what? I've got this feeling he won't be forced to resign, because he's shown his vanity. He's shown this astonishing lack of self-awareness. It's absolutely beyond belief that I think he will be so difficult to prize out of his position. You know, David Bernstein's going to be on later on, and he will tell us how difficult it was to get rid of Sepp Blatter. And I think we're in a similar situation.
That's a good point. Yeah, look, I totally understand that. But I know that he lost a couple of seniors, people in senior positions. I think over the last few days at FIFA, people have resigned. And I just always feel when that sort of stuff starts happening, when others that a few weeks ago were reasonably close to him, all of a sudden have now just gone in the middle of the night in a puff of smoke, they're out the door. And I'm sure others would be tempted to follow. I just feel that I don't think it's going to happen quickly, Jeff, whatever's going to happen. I'm sure it's going to be pretty protracted and drag out over the months ahead. But I do think eventually this will end with someone stepping forward, a credible contender that they feel could take FIFA forward in a different direction. And I'm pretty sure eventually something will happen and he'll probably stand down.
afternoon, people. This is the Transfer Insiders with me, Flex, and Dan Bardell. Remember, coming up after us, we've got the Sports Bar with Max Scott and former Villa striker Dean Saunders. I can't wait to hear Max on the radio because I don't know, since he's got back from Forest, I want to see if he's in one piece. He was in ice baths. He was doing bleat tests with his beloved Forest, so it's good to see him back in the studio. I'm not sure if he's been in since he's got back, but it'll be the first time I'm going to listen to him anyway. So, yes, I hope he's in one piece. But right now, there's been some significant developments in the FIFA saga with news that a meeting has been called tomorrow, including key staff members. To bring us up to speed with the latest on this, we can speak to talkSPORT reporter Ben Jacobs. Good evening, Ben.
Good evening.
Yes, the last time I spoke to you on this last week, it was an ever-changing situation. I said you're gonna be super busy. You're probably not going to get any rest. Fast forward a few days later, and it's all kicking off again. What's that? What's the latest? What's happening?
Yeah, so Gianni Infantino is set for crisis talks in Morocco with some of his senior staff, not all of whom are on side. In fact, the vast proportion of which have questioned whether privately, according to my information, or publicly, these so-called privatization plans, which went by the name of FIFA Forward Enterprise and came as quickly and went as quickly as the ill-fated European Super League. Now, the FIFA president has been lobbying member associations to back him publicly, particularly in Asia, which is seen as a battleground. And what's fascinating is that the feeling is there will be a challenger if Infantino remains, potentially Victor Montagliani, the CONCACAF president. But right now, Infantino effectively is running against himself, but also running against the possibility there might be a vote of no confidence. So whether there's another candidate or not that goes directly up against him, Infantino is doing the maths and seeing whether with all of these revocations of endorsement letters, he still believes he's got that magic number of 106, which is a majority that could see him either survive a vote of no confidence or ultimately win the next FIFA election, even if there's a viable candidate that is to stand against him. At the same time, the Jordanian FA president, Prince Ali bin Al Hussein, who once stood to be FIFA president, alleged Infantino was using tactics to win votes that amounted, quote, to blackmail. The FIFA General Secretary, the highly regarded Matthias Grafstrom, wrote a memo to FIFA staff basically confirming that individuals were at play, referencing Gianni Infantino in everything but name and distancing himself from the project because he was blindsided by it. Arsene Wenger has said that it's a good thing that the plans never got off the ground. So Infantino faces a battle because some of his previously close allies are now turning against him.
What do you think Infantino's mindset will be here, Ben? Do you think he'll genuinely believe that he can come out of this, or do you think it's just a case of just damage limitation at this point?
Well, if anything from Donald Trump has rubbed off on Gianni Infantino, then we know he'll have that bravado that regardless of scandal or circumstance, he can win. And this is where Gianni Infantino's relationship with the US president might help him handle this. But Trump's tactic would be to speak and to be saying fake news and to be doubling down with confidence and public appearances and ultimately allies, because in politics there's parties and sides, and in US politics there's Republicans and Democrats, and quite a lot of people that are red stay red regardless of what happens, and the same for those that are blue. In FIFA it's different. It's one member, one vote. And what is clear is that UEFA are catalysing an assault against Gianni Infantino's integrity rather than just previously challenging the plans. And that's why this saga isn't over once these FIFA Forward Enterprise plans went away. And what UEFA are hoping is they can bring FIFA into gridlock. As I revealed yesterday, Alexander Shefrin, the UEFA president, will meet with Nasser Al-Khalifi, who runs the body that controls all of the European football clubs, as well as, of course, being the president of PSG. And they'll have a conversation at the European Super Cup between Aston Villa and Al-Khalifi's PSG about how best to proceed, including a potential lack of endorsement or boycott of the Club World Cup. The reason why I say lack of endorsement is because there is really no Club World Cup in 2029. We don't have a venue, we don't have a confirmed amount of teams, we don't have a funding model, we don't have solidarity payments, and clubs are angry because they haven't even got their money due from solidarity from the 2025 Club World Cup. And UEFA are using all of this as a springboard to try and get wider support from CONCACAF and beyond. And in the end, Infantino's confidence will come down to one thing: the votes. If he thinks he's got that 106, he won't care about the other 105. If he realises his number falls below 106, he's got a big decision to make as to whether he walks before he's pushed.
Ben, so this meeting, do you think it's more about a meeting of whether he stays, or is it a meeting about whether he goes?
Well, I think Gianni Infantino wants the senior leadership to align and back him, but based on the memo of Grafstrom and what Arsene Wenger said, and the fact that Carlos Cordero, one of Infantino's previously most trusted advisors, quit, Kevin Lamore, CEO of FIFA, wrote a damning statement given to the Associated Press, I don't see how these individuals change their mind, which means that Gianni Infantino either needs to find new advisors and in the long run, a new leadership, and back himself to win the vote, and then come the next election, should he still be in situ after it in March, work out who his new positional allies are, because it feels untenable that the likes of Grafstrom or Lamore could stay, because they've basically spoken out against their boss. So there's either going to be a mutiny, and Infantino will be cornered by a gridlock FIFA, by a UEFA driving the lack of support, by another candidate, and he'll be ostracised and alone. And then he either would have to face the indignity of standing and losing, and I don't think that would happen, or he'd quit. Or Infantino hopes that Asia comes forwards in a majority, and he'll always have the Confederation of African Football. And if that gets him to 106, whether he wins by a vote or a landslide, he won't care. He'll stay. He'll pitch new plans that promote funding to member federations that has always been a vote winner. But then he's got this secondary task of needing to understand, does he need a new leadership team? Because this isn't just Infantino versus a potential candidate like Montagliani, or Infantino versus UEFA. This is Infantino, who's lost his closest allies and many of his senior leadership team. And that's why these crisis talks are taking place, to try and understand whether there's a way forwards together.
Ben, trust is obviously a big thing here. Is there anything that Infantino can do to win back trust with people, or do you think that's finished, those days are gone?
Money, really. So some suggestions are that Gianni Infantino may use FIFA's 4 billion in reserves to offer the difference between the proposed 40 million joining bonus for FIFA Forward Enterprise versus the current level of funding, which is broadly 3 or 4 times less. And if he does that, it would be contentious, because the richer nations will say, why are we depleting our reserves? And the less affluent or smaller federations might be in favour of it, because money ultimately can talk. Another option is that Infantino might be persuaded to get on board with reforms. And my information, as I revealed yesterday, is there's some, particularly within UEFA, that don't think Infantino alone is the problem, although they still want him gone, but actually the office of the FIFA president. And there are several in the game from Europe that are relatively senior, and executives and running bodies of their own, that have told me in the last few days that they don't want a FIFA president. They want a FIFA chair, surrounded by a few vice chairs, representative of various bodies and confederations, and it would be that collective leadership council with more checks and balances that then report into the wider FIFA council. And this would stop one individual acting like a politician or a head of state without any checks and balances. And if Infantino was to acknowledge that reform, but still wish to stand and effectively curtail his powers under a new kind of format and leadership team, it might be one way of finding a middle ground. I still don't think that he'd get any support from UEFA, but Infantino may have to make some form of concession to his very role if he's to stay in it.
Ben, thank you very much for bringing us right up to date with what's going on. It's incredible situations there. Thank you to Ben Jacobs there. He's brought us right up to speed with the latest from the FIFA saga. Keep it talkSPORT for the very latest from that meeting. Tomorrow we will have every single bit of news coming out from that. Crazy stuff, right, Dan? Crazy stuff. This is the head of our game. These are the custodians of our game. These are supposed to people who are supposed to nurture it, look after it, help it grow, and not exploit it. But it's not going that way, is it? Right, this is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. Next, we'll discuss whether Spurs should still be classed as a member of the Big Six.
The good news about Areola is he went through this with Bournemouth. He lost the whole back four.
Yeah.
And he had some late signings at Bournemouth. And look how they turned out. And look what he did. And I'm pretty sure with the Liverpool ownership, I can be critical of any ownership, including my own, that over the years, they've spent money and they've won a couple of league titles. Last year, they spent nearly £500 million. You could argue that maybe they overspent in some areas and should have spent in others.
But that's hindsight. Nobody was criticising the window at the
100% everyone thought we'd walk the league. Yeah. And this is football 12 months later where everyone thinks now we're the worst top six team in the Premier League. So I dare say Liverpool will look very different by the time the window closes.
Let's hear from Dominic Szoboszlai, shall we? He was speaking ahead of that recent friendly against Leeds, and he discussed the Liverpool squad depth.
I think I can talk from everybody's side that we want to be successful this season. It's a long term because obviously we have a new manager. The team has been changed, and it's maybe not in a couple of months, but in the long term, I think it will work out.
In the long term, it will work, says Dominic.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not a mug. He's just signed a new long-term deal. He sees what's going on. And by the way, they've got a lot of young talent in that squad. I know everyone's trying to say they need 10 new pieces or whatever else, but they still have a lot of good young players.
Feels like it could be a big year for Ngamata, bearing in mind they're trying to sign wide players, but they haven't yet managed to get anyone.
He will be a sensation this year. I'll make a prediction that he'll win Young Player of the Year in the Premier League, without a doubt. And they're probably more confident because of him and because he can play left and right side.
Corinthian Casuals are a team in the Combined Counties League Premier Division South. Despite that, they're one of the most important clubs in world football. Here's why. The club was formed in 1939 as the result of a merger between Corinthians FC and Casuals FC. Now, Corinthians FC were founded in the late 1800s when the FA's top brass were sick of getting pumped by Scotland every time they played them. As a result, a man called Nicholas Lane Jackson set up an amateur side which would bring in the best players who could all play for the national side. And it worked. It wasn't long before England were dominating the international fixtures they played, and it was largely down to Corinthians. In fact, in 1894 and 1895, they played consecutive games where Corinthians provided the entire England 11. But the thing is, the players refused to play professional football. They didn't believe in it. They wanted to spread the values of sportsmanship, competition, and played for the love of the game. It also helped that most of the players were Oxbridge graduates who didn't need the money. But instead of entering the league and cup competitions, they played exhibition football and toured the world, bringing the beautiful game with them. And it was this which spread the game throughout the world and made it so popular. Most famously, in 1910, they travelled to Brazil. And the locals in Sao Paulo were so impressed, they started their own team under the same name. Yes, the same Corinthians who won the FIFA Club World Cup in 2021, one of the biggest football teams in Brazil. Now, they were global superstars, and despite not being professional, Corinthians drew in the crowds. Everybody wanted to play them, everybody wanted to watch them. So much so, they regularly played the winners of the FA Cup in what eventually became the Community Shield, winning most of the time. They actually inflicted Manchester United's worst defeat, 11-3, a record which still stands to this day. Now, fast forward to today, Corinthian Casuals still don't pay their staff or players. The ethos of sportsmanship is still at the heart of everything that they do. And even though they're a side in the lower leagues, If you make the trip to King George's Field in Tolworth just off the A3, you'll most likely bump into Brazilian Corinthians fans who often make the pilgrimage across the globe just to watch their founding team play.
This is the Transfer Insiders with me, Flex, and Dan Bardell. We're going to be with you up until 10 p.m. in this hour. We're going to ask whether Spurs can still consider themselves a member of the Big Six. And if not, who should take their spot? I can't wait for this. The Dan scratching his head to be like, why are Villa not in it? We're going to get there. 03717 223344 if you want to have your say on that. We're also going to discuss the big Premier League news of the day, and that is that Bruno Guimaraes is closing in on his move from Newcastle United to the Emirates. What a signing that's going to be for them. Plus, we're still after your greatest Brazilian of the Premier League era and ones that got away, the ones that you really wanted to see in the Premier League but never ever came. To get in touch with the show, remember it's 03717 223344, or you can text us as well, 81089. This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. Right, we have to turn our attention to the Big Six, and Dan, I don't want you to get offended or upset or angry with us. We're just going to have an open discussion. It's open to debate. There's loads of opinions that are allowed. And we're going to talk about Spurs, though.
Yeah.
And should Spurs still be in the Big Six? What does it even mean anymore? And if I'm honest, I'll be honest, right? It's about money as well. It is. Because there's a traditional sort of top four, or the big powerhouses of English football, like the big institutions of English football. And that's Manchester United, that's Liverpool, that's Arsenal. And with recent history of what Chelsea have done, they've gone into it too.
Yeah.
And of course, Manchester City, with what they've done, I get the way they've done it. We're not going to go down 1-1-5 and et cetera, et cetera. There's asterisks, there's caveats, but what they've done on the field and what the records books say and what they've gone on to win under Pep Guardiola, they've put themselves into that stratosphere. But then the sort of Big Six sort of extends, doesn't it? And then Spurs have obviously been in that historically with this new term, because it used to be the top four, right?
The Big Four, yeah.
The Big Four, and it extended itself out to top six. Now it's getting to sort of like top eight, usually. Do you think, but Spurs are the subject of it. Spurs fans, get involved. If you want to fight your corner on this and you think this is a stupid argument, we want to hear from you as well. I don't think there'll be many Spurs fans ringing up to say we shouldn't be in it, but who knows? Should Spurs be in the Big Six?
You said earlier, should they still be in the Big Six?
Yeah, should they still be in it?
I would question whether they should have been in it in the first place. I heard Gabby Abonlahor talking about this yesterday. It's not even like a Villa thing, because I'm not sat here saying Villa should be in the Big Six, nor do I think Newcastle or whoever should be in the Big Six. It appears to me that for some reason, when you talked about the Big Four, when Manchester City had some success, it suddenly had to become something. So it should have just become the Big Five, because those five teams have all won the Premier League once Manchester City go in there. But for some reason at that time, Spurs, who were a good watch, who were a team in London, I'm not saying they're a small club or anything like that, under Pochettino, although they won nothing, they suddenly got catapulted and put in this Big Six bracket with Manchester City. Almost like the kid that befriends the playground bully, and then everyone thinks they're like kind of tough and hard by association. Like, I've got absolutely no idea what Spurs have done other than being in London to get in the Big Six.
Right, well, PD from Devon has got something for you. He's texting, and this is exactly why Spurs should be in the Big Six.
Okay.
When you're saying, what have they done? This is what he said. Of course, Tottenham are still in the Big Six because it's based on longevity. Spurs have finished in the top six for 18 of the last 22 seasons, with 13 consecutive seasons in Europe. Also, back in 1991, they were also part of the Big Five after winning the FA Cup for a then record 8th time and breaking the British transfer record signed Gaza. It's not who finished above who last season. If it was, didn't Brighton finish above Man United 2 seasons in a row? It's about being a big club in every decade, which Villa, Forest, Newcastle, etc. haven't been. That's PD and Devon. Does he make some good points there?
In fairness, probably the best argument I've heard.
Yeah, no tribalism there. He's just put down the facts of what. When you said what have they done to be in it, he's saying, well, what they've done is be in the top 6 for 18 out of the last 22 seasons.
I feel like he's put me up against the ropes here.
He has.
But what I would say, what I'm trying to say is that at the time when it did become a big 6. Yes, they qualified for the Champions League, didn't they? A few times during that time under Harry Redknapp, and then Pochettino after that. And they were an amazing watch under Pochettino, a team that everyone liked. But ultimately, they didn't win anything. That's my problem with it. I'm not sure that they've done enough in Premier League, the Premier League times, and they haven't won the Premier League when all of the 5 teams in the Big 6 have won the Premier League.
But to get in it, because most teams, there's only like a select few teams that have won it in the last God knows how. So Pep Guardiola's dominated it, right? Let's just say in the last 10 years. Chelsea haven't won it for a while. Liverpool have won it twice, and Arsenal have won it once. So in that, of course, you've got United, who we've won it in 2013 last. Leicester won it in 2016, but that's not obviously a conversation for this. The people who win the league don't really go out past that, past United, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, Arsenal. Apart from Blackburn and Leicester. So, do you think that you have to have won the Premier League to be in this Big 6? Because the 6th person is always going to be a Villa, at times Gatecrasher, Newcastle, teams like that.
Well, in the time Unai Emery's been at the club, Villa have finished ahead of Spurs every single season.
Yeah. I saw a great stat on Unai Emery since he...
unbelievable. But I'm not sat here saying Villa should be in the Big 6, but I'm saying if Tottenham are right now, it feels like maybe Villa and Newcastle, who've qualified for the Champions League between themselves every season over the last few
How much of this, Dan, do you think, if we're honest, is the recency of them going back-to-back 17th? How much of this is them coming within the last game of last season before being in the Championship, where it's like they've gone to sort of, for a Big 6 club, listen, my team finished 15th the year before, so it's absolutely shocking. But, before that, we've finished 3rd, and we finished 2nd, and this, that, and the other. And the history of what we've done and who we are in English football is not comparable to Spurs in any way, shape, or form. They're night and day. But how much of this is because Spurs have come back-to-back 17th and had 2 shocking seasons in a row?
Yeah, I think...
Is that the reason?
I think it's definitely one of the major points with it. And if you're a team that classes yourself as the big anything, and Tottenham class themselves as being this Big 6 giant, with all the advantages you have in terms of what you can spend, revenues, etc., that should never ever happen. You should never finish 17th.
No, you shouldn't.
In a row. I know there was a trophy in the midst of that. Fair play. They absolutely needed to win a trophy, and they got over the line in that competition and did it. If you're claiming you're like part of this big tribe, you can't be finishing 17th 2 seasons around. And look, they'll rectify it. Spurs will be better this season.
Absolutely.
I think they'll probably finish in the top 6 this season. I think they're doing a lot.
After all of that, they're going to get back in the top 6 this season.
And then start talking about it again. But I'm saying initially, I don't get where it's come from. Darren Bent and Kyle Walker were sat in his studio a few weeks ago, and they were asked who's the bigger club, Villa and Tottenham. Bearing in mind they both played for both, and Kyle Walker played a lot of games for Spurs. More than he ever did for Villa in a half a season loan. They both said Villa.
And is that because of the European heritage? Is it?
We've won the European Cup. Maybe that factors into it.
Fan base worldwide. Is there more Spurs? Are Spurs a bigger club than Aston Villa? I'm probably asking the wrong person here.
Yeah, you definitely need to ask someone else. I'm not going to sit here.
Do I think that Spurs are a bigger club than Aston Villa?
Yeah, what do you think?
Not historically, no. I wouldn't say they are.
What's happened in the modern day?
But in the modern day, what it is this is what I'm saying. It's down to the finances and the resources available. Not that they've spent it well, because they haven't, but what they were building under Poch, and then they've gone on to build a new stadium. That's happened because they've managed to draw that type of investment, because they're obviously a big club. But I'm with you. I wouldn't have them down as historically a bigger club than Villa. Even like Forest, not bigger club than them.
If they weren't in London, I don't think it would even be a discussion. And I don't think they'd have had some of the relative success they've had without being in London, because London makes you instantly more attractive to players, etc. I would say players want to live in London, don't they? It's the city. It's the capital city. People want to live there. I just don't think they're maybe as big as they think they are. And I'm not sure the Big Six should have ever been a thing in the first place.
No, exactly. I made an Arsenal fan angry here on that with a slip of the tongue. When I'm saying that Arsenal obviously won the league last year, yes, they've won it more than that, but I mean in general that it doesn't go past. That's why I've added Arsenal in. Arsenal are fully in it. Don't worry, Arsenal fans. We're not disrespecting you. We're kind of only disrespecting Spurs. If it's not going to be Spurs, then who are we saying should be the sixth one? Is the sixth one? Should it just go back to 5, or is it like annually? Is it like, do we have to check in on this sixth party every year, every couple of years to see who's been doing what down there and have a real look at it? Are we saying that this top 6 should change every so often, or are you saying go back to a top 5, or what?
Does it need to be anything? People finish where they finish. Chelsea finished 10th last season.
Yeah.
They've had some shockers under Blue Coat. Tottenham, 17th, 2 seasons in a row. You've just said yourself. Manchester United, 15th. Like, what is the big?
Now Newcastle went back to, where did they finish? Like
all it is. All it comes down to is just the 6 richest teams.
That's what I'm saying. It's about money.
That's all. Yeah,
exactly. That's why at the start of this topic, I said really, it's about money. But I am going to be biased here. I'm not biased. I'm just going to lay down the facts. There are 2 clubs in Man United and Liverpool who don't belong in these conversations with the rest.
No, I agree. I completely agree. I'd throw Arsenal in
and Arsenal, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, I take that back. And Arsenal. There's 3 clubs of English football. Heritage, DNA, history, like it's been done. And when you're talking global, where there's no talk about why they're called the biggest club in England or etc., or in that conversation, biggest clubs in Europe, biggest club in the world, institutions.
Yeah.
That's Man United, Liverpool, and Arsenal in that order, obviously for me. But obviously,
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Before,
so really, it should be the big 3, and that's it.
Because before all the money that came rolling in, those 3 were as big then as they are now.
100%.
Nothing's changed.
And the fact that Man United, I'm not trying to just go down that route, but the fact that we've been so poor for so long, can finish 15th, still getting record sponsors, still getting record revenues, that's because of that legacy. Now, I'm not saying, listen, rival fans and trolling fans, and when we get sort of really tribal about it, we say, well, what have you done? You haven't won the league since 2013. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about how big the institutions are and what they stand for. And for me, like you just said, Man United, Liverpool and Arsenal don't even belong in this. So there's 3 clubs really that are certified. They're over there in the box, in the corner. Then you've got Man City because of what they've done recently. Like I said, Chelsea with what they've done, big investment, the way they've done it. The love story isn't really there, but it was very fast, but they've done it. And then the 6th one's up for debate. So very, very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Look forward to
that. Yeah, exactly. Up next, we're going to go back to the transfer talk as well, and we'll head over to Italy to get the very latest from there. And also, I want to let you guys know that the US Open Tennis gets underway soon, and you can get in the mood to join former British number 1 Greg Rosetsky on off court as he shares who he thinks will be the star of the tournament. It's available now for you from your favourite podcast provider. Love a bit of the US Open as well. Right, you listen to Transfer Insiders right here on talkSPORT.
No Vin, no fee. That's on the back page of The Sun, with also Arsenal target Vinny Jr. back in training with Madrid. You feel as though, you know, if the Madrid deal happens, he will end up staying. But around Bruno, they've had a deal rejected for £75 million. So do you think Gabby actually, you know, depending on how these plan out, Arsenal might have a quiet window?
Yeah, but they don't need a busy window. Just won the Premier League, and they're going to strengthen. They've lost Trossard. They brought in Zolis, who's a very good winger. If they bring in Bruno Guimaraes, I think that's enough to go again and win the Premier League anyway, even without him. But it's going to make them stronger. And I think he's a fantastic player. I don't think he should be the same fee as Tonali because of the age difference. I mean, 3 years older than Tonali. So you look at him, no sell-on value for Arsenal if they sign him. So I think 75, 80 is about right.
30 million less, okay.
Just because of the age I'm looking at.
Okay. Yeah. But they're not going to have... But how important is it that Arsenal do get in a midfield, especially at the start of the season, because they won't have Declan Rice?
Yeah, and they've sold Norgard. to Everton. So you're looking at that midfield and you're saying it's a bit light now. I think it's a fantastic player. We're just talking, me and Jeff, off air. You know, that probably says Zubamendi, maybe you're a squad player next season.
Yeah, and I think the thing is with Bruno Guimaraes that he's reportedly said that he wants to join Arsenal. So the deal will happen. So from a Newcastle perspective, get it done.
Yeah.
Don't let this become Alexander Isak Mark II.
This is the Transfer Insiders right here on talkSPORT with me, Flex, and I'm alongside my good mate and broadcaster and massive Villa fan, Dan Bardell. We're going to be with you up until 10 p.m. We have been talking about the Big Six debate and should Spurs be in it, and it sparked loads of debate, as you would have thought. There's texts coming in, they're flying in. Paddy Kelly said, you haven't mentioned Everton, the third most successful club in English history, bigger club than Spurs or Villa. You having that, Dan? Everton bigger than you?
I'm a massive fan of Everton in terms of their prestige and historically what they've done. I just think and I didn't put Villa in the Big Six. I said Villa shouldn't be in there. But if you're going to be in the Big Six, I think you have to have done something in the Premier League era. And unfortunately, I don't think
this is an interesting one. Do me a favour. I don't know who it's from, but it says, do me a favour. Spurs are top six. For every world-class player Villa have had in any position, I could name 5 or 6 better Spurs players. Not really sure where they're going with that one.
It's a different conversation.
That's a whole different conversation. Let's take a call on this Big Six debate. So I think it's fascinating. We're gonna go to Chris, the Arsenal fan. Has he got any love for Spurs here, or is he gonna chuck them out of the top 6 for someone else? What are you saying about this, Chris?
Hi, gents. You all right?
Yeah, we're all good, mate.
That text has just killed me, really, because I was actually going to bring up. I was going to bring up Everton. I thought if we're talking historic, I know we're talking about Premier League era.
Yeah.
If you're talking historically, you know, what have Everton won? 8 league titles. Obviously, their cup history. I've never done anything for a few years, but we're talking about Spurs. It's pure money with Spurs. And fair enough, they've got the stadium, obviously, but. You know, they've stayed in the league a long time, but they've won the league twice in their history. They haven't won the league for 65 years.
Yeah, we were just reminding ourselves of that. They only won the league twice. What about? Is this about sort of like global reach as well? Like how much fans you got?
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
Spurs were the second biggest club in London until Roman Abramovich turned up at Chelsea.
Yeah.
Chelsea were historically an up and down. They were a second division club for most of the 80s.
Yeah.
You know, Man City went down to League Two. Now, I remember Man City playing in Gillingham and at Wembley and just about getting through it. I mean, Newcastle have been up and down. Villa obviously a huge club. They had their little blip, didn't they? And that lasted a lot longer than people thought. So, I mean, obviously you say the 3 teams that we're talking about, Arsenal, Liverpool, United, there's not even a debate.
Yeah, we're in a box of our own, aren't we, mate? Chris, since we've got you, actually, on Arsenal, Bruno Guimaraes, you liking this signing? If it happens.
I am. I was actually on early breakfast this morning talking about it. How far? I've been in bed all day because I'm on nights. What's the latest? We had 75 million rejected. What's happened?
Yeah, the latest is that you're nearing completion. You're nearing the agreement for £80 million. It's looking like it's I'm not going to say a done deal yet, but it's looking very, very close.
As good as.
As good as.
Yeah, I mean, from what I said this morning, we're really light in midfield. The 2 boys playing for Spain in the World Cup, they obviously need a rest. Declan's in trouble.
Shot to bits,
he's knackered, the bloke. Yeah. Norgard's on his way to the Toffees by the looks of things, and we've got Lewis Skelly on his own. So we need someone, even if it's, you know, just get us through the first 2 months, and then we'll go to Rice, Guimaraes, Odegaard, Eze, whatever he's going to do. But we need to do something now.
Yeah.
And Guimaraes, I think, Premier League quality. He's obviously got something about him. He's got a bit of nastiness in him as well.
He does.
He never gets booked. He will do when he comes to us.
Oh yeah, league's against you, is it? League's against you. They've started already. Season ain't even started yet. Chris, listen. Have a good evening on your night shift, mate. You've had a lot of sleep now, so you should be alive and ready for it. Thank you, Chris, the Arsenal fan there. He says, yeah, what about Everton? And also says, of course, Bruno Guimaraes is a massive signing for them. Right, let's quickly head over to Italy now and speak to Italian football expert Daniele Fisichella. Welcome to the show. What's happening? What's happening over there in Italy? Marcus Rashford is a big name that's being discussed of whether he's going to come back to Manchester United and stay there, or if something's going to happen in the last few weeks of the transfer window. How do you understand there to be any interest from Italy for Marcus Rashford?
Very, very light interest because of the big problem for any Italian club. And at the moment, let's face it, there are only two Italian clubs that could potentially be interested in Rashford. The first one is Roma, and the other one is AC Milan. But for both of these clubs, the fact that Marcus Rashford is on around 11 millions per year, it's a big block. Of course, nobody will be able to afford his full wage as Barcelona did. Why I said Roma? Because potentially Roma and Manchester United might be talking about a deal for Manu Kone, the France midfielder, although obviously Manchester United have already strengthened the midfield with André Santos and Yuri Tillemans. But if they're looking for somebody slightly more physical, Manu Kone could be someone. And obviously by talking about the deal and maybe an exchange and giving Rashford to Roma, who on the other hand are also looking for a winger, somebody who can play also centrally as well. AC Milan, another team that of course are looking for players in that very position, but the big issue is that they are coached by Ruben Amorim, who of course didn't quite like Rashford at Manchester United. So I will be stunned if he actually gives the green light for the Englishman to join AC Milan. But yeah, these are only the two clubs in Italy that could and might need somebody like him. But yeah, unless he cuts his wage, it will be very, very difficult, I guess.
To have a bit more freedom with incomings, Manchester United will need to sell players. Could Joshua Zirkzee back to Serie A be a kind of route to that?
That's more likely, I think, than because he's very much like that Juventus. He's been on the radar for at least a couple of seasons since he had a very good season at Bologna in 23-24 where he scored 12 goals. And they looking to, first of all, agree personal terms with the players, which they seem to be extremely close to it, and maybe a loan deal with an option to buy for Juventus from Manchester United could be the way in. But a lot depends on the future of Jonathan David, who still plays for Juventus. They've only bought him last season, but he had a poor season, only 8 goals in the league last season, and they are looking to ship him away straight away. He hasn't really left a mark, but unless they can sell, it's difficult for Juventus to complete that deal. Juventus have already spent 138 million euros in this summer by signing Colomwani, Karim Aliabegovic, signing Lois Openda permanently, although he's already been loaned out. So obviously they need some outgoings, also because they are under financial settlement agreement with UEFA. They're not playing in Champions League this season, so of course they need to sell before they can buy. But yeah, Joshua Zirkzee, who has his best ever season of his career in Italy with Bologna, it is somebody that would really complement and complete their attack. But yeah, probably a loan, so something that maybe it will be completed toward the end of this transfer window.
Daniel, what about Ruben Amorim? He's now in Serie A. Serie A has the joy of the Ruben Amorim press conferences, the emotional Ruben Amorim, or maybe he's changed. He says he's made some mistakes at Manchester United, and he had to understand that. What's been the reception for him becoming the AC Milan manager?
Well, with a lot of enthusiasm, really, from both sides and a lot of curiosity, because let's face it, if Amorim had joined AC Milan 18 months ago, before joining Manchester United, we would have talked about a major coup for AC Milan, having one of the up-and-coming European managers. But of course, his reputation has been tarnished at Manchester United. But now we are seeing a less confrontational Ruben Amorim from the first few press conferences. Actually, a very happy but also motivated Ruben Amorim. He said he's happy with the squad, although he knows they still need to buy a couple of players, especially in the number 10 and winger position. But he says they will be very competitive also from the first match. So he's not really shying away from the responsibility of being competitive. AC Milan objective this season probably is not to win the league, but at least to finish in the top 4, which they failed to do last season at the very last match. But we are seeing some changes already, a much more proactive AC Milan that plays, presses high, that takes more risks also with the ball. So we are expecting AC Milan to score more goals than they did last season. They only had the 6th best attack of Serie A, perhaps concede more goals. But tomorrow, there is already a big test for Amorim. There is a derby. The derby of Milan, played in Perth, is friendly against Inter Milan. And of course, English fans will see more of AC Milan Amorim by next week when they play first Chelsea, then Manchester United. It is an AC Milan still incomplete, as I said, but already Amorim trying to leave his mark. And, report says he's spending a lot of time in the training round talking to players, explaining stuff. So he's really trying to convince them to change completely from the football that they practice under Allegri, very reactive and defensive, to one that is much more attacking.
It's going to be a fascinating watch to see how he gets on there. I do actually wish him the best, even though it was a torrid time at Man United. I do hope he's successful over there. Daniel, thank you very much for bringing us the latest over there from Italy. Marcus Rashford, Joshua Zirkzee, etc. linked potentially with moves, less so Rashford, but more so Joshua Zirkzee to Juve. Right, that was Daniel Fisichella there for you. Up next, we've got to discuss the biggest transfer stories of the last 24 hours. It's the Transfer Insiders here on talkSPORT.
Let's take a very quick call on Trent Alexander-Arnold. Oliver is a Liverpool fan. Morning, Oliver.
Morning, how you doing, lad? You all right?
Yeah,
all right,
really
Oliver.
Good, yeah. Would you like to see Trent back?
Good. I'd absolutely love to see Trent back. I think Mo Salah missed him very much last season. Obviously, Salah had a pretty poor season last season, but when he come back with Real Madrid, it was very frosty, and I think the damage is being done, to be honest with you. But I would love to see him back in a Liverpool shirt, yeah.
Look, there's no doubt. Nobody can doubt his quality. On the ball, he's as good as anything, anywhere.
He was winning games from right back. Obviously the Barcelona game in 2019, that cross, and then I think he was very, very important when we won the league with Slot as well. So much quality, from right back.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, brilliant. I think a lot of Liverpool fans would share that view. They'd all love to see Trent back. Oliver, thanks very much indeed.
Maybe Jeff as well. Thanks, Oliver. You wonder though whether the player, having not really done it at Real Madrid, would want to sort of maybe at least stick around for another 6 months to see exactly where he figures and where he fares. He'll know pretty soon. As players, you get the vibe whether or not you're on you're part of the in club or whether you're on the outside of it.
when you think about famous F1 circuits.
This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT. I'm Flex. Alongside me is Aston Villa fan Dan Bardell. And this is your whistle-stop tour of the biggest transfer news of the day. And we'll start with the big news that Bruno Guimaraes' move to Premier League champions Arsenal is edging ever closer. Our chief football correspondent Alex Crook gave us the latest on how close this deal is to getting over the line.
Yeah, I mean, this has been the worst kept secret in football for several weeks, as far as I'm concerned, that Bruno Guimaraes would quit Newcastle for Arsenal. Just a case of the two clubs agreeing a fee, which is not done yet, but they are getting closer. I think that fee eventually might even be north of £80 million. But the latest information I got a couple of hours ago was that Guimaraes is on standby, waiting to leave Newcastle's training camp in Spain, waiting to undergo a medical at Arsenal. So I think the next 24 hours are going to be really key to this deal. Obviously, a lot of Newcastle fans upset to see him go. It's been a tough summer, hasn't it? They've lost Anthony Gordon. They've lost Sandro Tonali. Now they're going to lose their captain. They've lost their manager, Eddie Howe. And I'm not saying they're in relegation danger, Newcastle, but I certainly don't see them as a team that are going to compete for a European place, having lost the family silver.
talkSPORT's Alex Crook there, giving us the very latest on that. I mean, this is a massive move for Arsenal and a huge loss for Newcastle United, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, two clubs at the opposite end of the spectrum right now. Arsenal recruiting from a position of strength, whereas Newcastle a little bit in the doldrums. You wonder who's going to be next to depart, and it's probably the one that they thought was unthinkable this summer, the one that all Newcastle fans would have wanted to hold on to. But from an Arsenal perspective, it's very, very exciting. You're adding quality and depth at the same time into an area that's already pretty strong. And for me, Arsenal they've got the best goalkeeper, they've got the best defence, and they're now going to have the best midfield as well, because whoever plays, they can mix and match now. There's absolutely no drop-off in quality at all. They're all fantastic midfield players, and if they do manage to get that superstar in the front three, it suddenly looks very ominous for the rest of the challenge.
Yeah, it's going to look like a very complete team, that's for sure. Right, Arsenal fan and podcaster of the Highbury squad, Sophie Nicolau, she had her say on what she thinks about this Bruno Guimaraes deal.
I think it's a huge needle mover. And yeah, I don't know what you boys think, but I've been saying on the show, for me, this is a much more important signing than Vinny Jr. Vinny Jr. is that pipe dream, the one, and as Arsenal fans, we're not conditioned to expect a signing like Vinny Jr. And if it happens, it's going to be mind-blowing, not only for Arsenal, but for the Premier League. Bruno is the player that we need. And I'm shocked that other teams in the Premier League did not go after him.
Yeah,
I'm actually shocked
agreed.
that your boys didn't go in for him.
Money, mate.
Flex.
Yeah, we're not shopping in the same shops anymore, mate.
No, which is quite pleasant for us. But I think for me, there's two reasons why Bruno is maybe going to be one of the most important signings we'll see in the Premier League this summer. One is not only has he been and proven to be one of the best defenders in the league, a leader in the league, being a leader and captain at Newcastle, what that can bring to an already championship winning team. But you've also got to protect the jewel in your crown. And the jewel in our crown has been Declan Rice. And to be able to say to Declan, you're going to sit this one out, you know, or the fact that they'll play together, taking the burden off even the small moments in games. I think this is going to be huge, not only for the team, for Mikel and his choices, for Bruno's opportunity, but also for our midfield and in particular Declan Rice.
I mean, staggering signing, massive signing. What do you think of the chasing pack? Because do you think they'll be looking at this now thinking, cool, this is really strengthening Arsenal. There was already a tough nut to crack before. Now they're adding that sort of steel in the midfield, that type of muscle in the midfield, as we heard from Sophie there, talking about, if Declan Rice comes out, you've spoken about lack of drop-off, and also just taking them to another level.
Yeah, the challengers don't feel as well set as Arsenal right now in terms of recruitment, because they'll all still have business to do. But also just in terms of stability now, and the fact that Arteta's been at the helm for so long, it's a group of players that have grown together, been through a lot together. Like, there was a point when Arsenal had a really young team. It's now matured into a team where a lot of them are playing at the peak of their powers, and they've just got frightening depth and frightening quality all round. I think it's a sorry state of affairs for the teams that are outside of the elite in the Premier League. Like Newcastle have had relative success, and sadly for them, they've been picked apart. This summer's been absolutely awful. It's a complete reset for them with a new manager. They've lost players and a manager that have brought them success in terms of 2 Champions League qualifications, that trophy that they all pined for so long. It feels from that perspective that the so-called Big Six are getting stronger, whilst the sides that are trying to break into that can't really strengthen because of the financial regulations. But I make Arsenal complete favourites at the moment. I don't think there's anyone near them right now. There's too many unknowns at the other teams for me to call it right now, whereas at Arsenal, as I say, it feels set.
Yeah, they're one of the sure things in terms of how they're going to perform. It feels, you can never be certain, but if you're going to hedge your bets, you definitely hedge them that way. I think it's really interesting that it feels like Arsenal had like a clean sweep towards him. Because look, if I look at Chelsea, they could have done with Bruno Guimaraes. Manchester United could have done with Bruno Guimaraes. We've spoken a lot about Liverpool and what sort of things their squad needs. Definitely a player of his ilk would have been welcome there. But maybe it was a situation of, Bruno Guimaraes made it very, very clear that once Arsenal sort of came knocking, I want to go to the Premier League champions. And sometimes, you don't always hear in the media about some of the early inquiries that are made. Maybe a quick phone call to an intermediary, a quick phone call to, do you think he'd be interested? Nah, mate, Arsenal have come in and he only wants to go there. Because it has literally just been a one-horse race.
You're completely right, and I could guarantee you now that terms were agreed between Bruno and Arsenal a long time ago. Other clubs will have got a sniff of what's going on and would have known there's no point going in for him. But Chelsea would have been in for him.
100%.
For that price. They're looking at spending 64 million on Alex Scott, Bruno for 15 million more.
And Chelsea were trying to get Xhaka, whose experience, they're trying to...
Chelsea would have done it. Yeah. But Arsenal have just got the power and the clout right now.
Simple as that.
Let's remember as well, when Arsenal recruited Declan Rice, they recruited him at a time where they hadn't just won the league.
Yeah.
But they were still such an attractive proposition, and the project really appealed to Declan Rice that he could have perhaps gone to Manchester City. But at the time, he chose Arsenal because he wanted to grow with them and achieve something and be the player to achieve that title after 20 plus years or whatever it was. Now they have won that league. They're even more attractive.
Do you know what I think is really interesting about what Sophie said as well? She said that this deal is more important than the Vinicius Junior deal. And she said the Vinicius Junior deal is a pipe dream that, if you can get him, obviously you try. And I think she broke it down really well in terms of explaining the reasons why, sort of saying that, they've won the league without Vinicius Junior. Listen, they've won it without Bruno Guimaraes too. But she basically feels like this is somebody that they really need. Do you agree that this deal is more important than the Vinicius Junior deal?
I think what she was trying to get at is it's a more realistic deal.
And fans, and sorry, just cut you, a lot of Arsenal fans, she was sort of saying, because they don't know how to behave because they're now champions, they haven't been in champions for so long, they're sort of going down the lane of, we need to get Vinicius Junior to protect we can't keep hold of our title, which she's basically saying is, that's not necessarily true. We can do it without him.
I think if they don't sign Vinny Junior, they're still the favourites.
Yeah.
But what Vinny Junior does, he elevates you to, and I know they got to the final last year, but I really think they could win the Champions League with Vinny Junior in that team. Out of the two of them, and this isn't obviously how football works, if you ask Arsenal fans, you can sign one, Vinny Junior or Bruno, I think most would probably choose Vinny Junior.
Yeah.
And I'd go along with that.
Because he's the real difference maker. Like, you can probably get another midfielder who can...
The age as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you weren't able to get Bruno, you chose Vinicius Junior, like you said, out of those two signings, which I agree I would, you can find probably another Bruno Guimaraes or that type young player coming up, or even another type of experienced player for decent money. You can't get another Vinicius Junior.
Bruno is a top midfielder.
Absolutely.
An absolute top operator in that position. but he's not the best in class in that position. Vinny Jr. is the best in the world.
Yeah, completely world
position.
class.
If Arsenal get him, it's the biggest signing in Premier League history. Like, it would rock the footballing world. Like Real Madrid even losing a player that they'd want to keep to Arsenal.
That rocks the world.
That's never happened before. Real Madrid have never lost a player to an English team that they haven't been satisfied to lose. It just doesn't happen. So although I take the point that they need Bruno and he's a massive upgrade to their squad, it improves the depth and the quality in that squad, Vinny Jr. would be the bigger deal by far.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just the excitement and the buzz around it. I mean, because, listen, you're talking about, and listen, they're both Brazilian, but you're talking about a genuine superstar here.
Ballon d'Or contender every year.
100%. And he's come very, very close. Some people say he was robbed when Rodri won it, etc. He boycotted the awards. But I just think it'll be a monumental signing for Arsenal, one of which I don't want to happen.
I don't think it will happen.
I think he'll probably stay.
Yeah, me too.
I'm still leaning on the side of him staying. I think that it's one of those situations where as long as the contract isn't signed, the speculation won't go away, which rightly so. I think is a clear indication of Arsenal's intent to say, we can sense an opportunity here. We can sense something's going on. Yes, they may have got led down the garden path a little bit if they're talking to Vinny's representatives, because, of course, if Vinny's representatives are getting a sniff that they're not really getting what they want from Real Madrid, or maybe using it as a ploy to get more, they have to have options. They have to have things lined up. You've got to have your conversations. Doesn't mean you're going to commit to anything, but exploratory talks, as the term goes. But I think it does show that Arsenal are now in a realm where they are capable of pulling off a deal of that magnitude. And I think that almost doesn't speak more than getting him, obviously, but it just speaks very forcefully to everybody else. Because, like I said, a couple of years ago, if an Arsenal fan sort of dreams to get Mbappe or Vinicius or Jude Bellingham or these types of players, or, players of that ilk, they get laughed at. And now it's not a laughing matter. Arsenal generally can get this type of player. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this happens. Right, if this happens, you listen to the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT with me, Flex, and Dan Bardell.
I speak to people here and there, good sources.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing I can say is that I know for a fact we're not going to rush. The window doesn't close until the beginning of September, end of August, beginning of September. We've got a lot of time to make decisions. And on top of that, we're not like other teams who desperately have to strengthen, and anyone's better than their current team. If somebody comes into our team, they have to be the right personnel, the right players on the pitch, and they have to fit the vision of Arsenal Football Club. We haven't spent 7-8 years building this squad for anyone to come in and for it to be some kind of joke. So the likes of Bruno, great attitude. He can play, Mikel likes him versatile. He can play as a 6, he can play as an 8. He can play as a 10 if you really want him to as well.
His creativity is very underrated, Joel.
Exactly. And we all know what it gets like. When you're Arsenal Football Club, you're in every single competition, guys. Just to remind everybody, we only, didn't play 2 games out of the possible. All of the games that you could have played last season, we only didn't play 2 games. What games were they? Do you know?
It would be the League Cup final. Oh no, you played that.
You're wrong. You're wrong. Don't worry, Ollie. I'll correct.
Go on. Yeah, go on.
Semi-final of the FA Cup.
And
the final of the FA Cup.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. So that means that even if you've got 2 10s, Eze and Odegaard, and how great they are, sometimes you need more players.
This is the Transfer Insiders on talkSPORT and Flex. Alongside me is Dan Bardell, and this is your whistle-stop tour for the biggest transfer news of the day. Now let's turn our attention to Manchester City and their transfer activity under new manager Enzo Maresca. Let's hear from our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, about the possibility of Pedro Neto reuniting with Maresca at Manchester City.
Well, I think he's a better player than Savinho. And obviously you've got the Enzo Maresca connection. Did well for him at Chelsea, and actually his form tailed off a little bit after Maresca left the club. But certainly Manchester City's interest is genuine. We know that Tottenham have been chasing Savinho for a couple of transfer windows now. Didn't quite manage to get the deal over the line. The player is keen to make that move, and Roberto De Zerbi is keen to sign him. So this could be a move that suits all parties, because I don't think Neto is a guaranteed starter at Chelsea. Savinho certainly isn't a guaranteed starter at Manchester City. So these jigsaw pieces might just be falling into place. But is he top level, Pedro Neto? I think he's got a lot of ability, but I'm not sure he's going to make the difference in a title race.
Giving us the very latest on Pedro Neto to Manchester City. I tend to agree with Crookie in terms of it could be one where all parties are kind of happy, but I don't see him elevating Manchester City to the next level. Now, yes, he has worked, of course, with Enzo Maresca at Chelsea. I think he's very quick, he's very direct, very good ball carrier. But I think a lot of his final actions aren't really there. But he is a good player. Look, 10 goals, 10 assists last season across all comps. I'm just not sure this is like the real needle mover for Manchester City. Getting rid of Savinho and bringing in Pedro Neto, I feel like he's obviously a lot more established than Savinho in the league. I'm just not sure about it. Doesn't feel quite right.
Am I right in thinking that when Maresca first went in, one of the first links was Gusto from Chelsea?
Yeah.
So he seems to be having a
trying to bring his guys.
Seems to have a sound transfers, I would say. Chelsea are maybe not to the extent of Manchester City, but usually pretty willing sellers if somebody does want to go. So if Manchester City hit a price point, Chelsea,
he'll go. I don't think Chelsea fans will be that fast as well. I think he's been very consistent for Chelsea.
When I watch Chelsea, I've always thought he was one of the more effective players with holding the width on that right-hand side.
Yeah.
I think his end product's okay. I'm not saying he's like a world beater, but you said 10 goals, 10 assists.
Yeah,
team that finished 10th.
Yeah. I just, when I look at, I mean, listen, when he went to Chelsea from Wolves, I was actually quite jealous at the time.
He's a brilliant player.
Yeah, I mean, especially at Wolves, I thought, wow, fantastic. But at Chelsea, I just seem to get this vibe, and I don't know, maybe Chelsea fans will have a different opinion, but I just think he blows hot and cold. Like I said, he's a fantastic dribbler, fantastic ball carrier, get your team up the pitch. And I think actually, you know, in a Manchester City team, actually, that's going to dominate the ball. You want quick transitions. And it is an upgrade on Savinho because he's established in the Premier League. He hasn't done anything since he really got to City. No. He's never really got going, and he's been injured as well. So it's a clear upgrade, and he's worked with the players. So I don't think it'll be a catastrophe. I just don't get, when I'm looking at City trying to catch Arsenal, I'm not sure Pedro Neto does that.
I'm just thinking Neto in his time, like Chelsea have had a nightmare with wingers, in and out, different wingers, change every summer. He's been a relative constant there. But we all think of some of the strikers that have played for Chelsea over the years, and João Pedro has fixed that to an extent, although he's not really a penalty box poacher. Neto's squaring the ball to players that have been erratic, like Chelsea haven't been good.
But also he's probably played loads because, no offence, they've had Gittins who has been terrible.
No, but
Garnacho.
Yeah, of course. But if you're playing for Manchester City, you've got Haaland in the box. So I can see a world where it works.
It won't be. Like I said, it won't be a catastrophe. I don't believe it'll be a catastrophe.
A lot of money
at all, but
85 million, did he say?
Exactly, it could be up to that, which is incredible. Like, it's incredible about some money. It really is, and I don't know. Do you know what it is? I think it's because it's Maresca. If Pep Guardiola was here, Pep Guardiola was there, he wouldn't buy Pedro Neto. I don't think that would be the sign he'd make.
No, I think you probably
do you know what I mean?
Right.
I think it's the Maresca situation, which, again, listen, managers go to clubs often and try and go back to the players that they just had. But I don't know. It just, you know, when like a transfer just feels off, and sometimes you don't even have the perfect words to say why. It just doesn't feel right.
I think maybe you're thinking of the teams Manchester City have had under Pep, where they've built and they've won a lot of trophies, gone back to back on various titles. I think you're thinking of that Manchester City, where they are now, right hand side. I think it's a pretty smart sign. Not smart sign because he's not very inventive, but I think he fits.
And they will have a difference of like sometimes Semenyo on the right, Doku on the left, or vice versa. Phil Foden can sometimes operate from there. We have to see what Maresca's plan is for him, whether he's straight central now. There's been Bernardo Silva's gone.
All those players can play on both wings as well. So if you've got those three to choose from on the wings and you're mixing and matching depending on your opponent, then you've got obviously Shirky and Foden who can play that role in a different way. Like, you've got a lot of frightening attacking options there. Like, remember, this isn't the Manchester City of the bygone years under Pep. Like, they haven't won a title for 2 years.
Yeah. Exactly. We don't ever see this at Manchester City. So fascinating to see how that goes. Of course, we'll keep you right up to date with all the latest moves on talkSPORT and talkSPORT.com. But before we move on, I'll tell you what, it does look like Mo Salah potentially could be going to Trabzonspor in Turkey. What do you make of that? That would be fascinating.
A little bit disappointing because I felt like Salah had a point to prove with Liverpool, maybe a little bit more to give. Had a really off season by his really high standards, like the kind of drop off from Salah at his absolute best the season before to Salah last season was huge. I thought he might somehow get a move somewhere where he'd be able to play at the highest level still and maybe prove himself, but it hasn't happened. I felt Saudi was the most logical place for him to land, but that's clearly not going to happen. And Turkey do pay good money, but I just thought he had a bit more at the highest level because he kept himself in supreme condition over the years with Mo Salah. It's just a shame to see him drop out from the highest level.
Yeah.
I thought he might have a big five league
see him in the
still.
Champions League. Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. So it'd be interesting to see if this does happen. But it's almost like our hopes for him were different. But yeah, exactly. Mo Salah's achieved so much in the game. I'm pretty sure, whatever lifestyle he chooses is because he wants it, not just because he has to take whatever offer is there. So please do remember, guys, we will keep you right up to date with all the latest moves on talkSPORT and talkSPORT.com. This has been the Transfer Insiders. Remember, you can catch the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Acast, or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, Transfer Insiders is back tomorrow night from 7 p.m. Coming up here on talkSPORT. It's the Sports Bar with Max Scott and Dean Saunders taking your calls on Mo Salah, who appears to be off to Turkey. Get your calls in right now, 03717 22 33 44.
It's interesting, this situation with Vinicius Junior, because there were some reports of the weekend